Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and I'm here. Yeah, Carl is absent this evening. Item 2, open participation. Anyone like to address the commission on any item not on the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I would like to recommend that someone motions to move item 8E out of order. It's not on the original agenda. I just threw it on under commission discussion so I wouldn't forget. And Casey's here to talk about it, but he has a meeting to run to at 7.
Correct. So we've got a
Hold
number.
on, Casey. Someone actually has the motion, or
Oh,
I don't
sorry
know
about
if someone
that.
has the motion to take it out of order or.
Mr. Chair, as long as you're good with potential non-agenda items, I'd make the motion to take item 8E essentially as a public item here, since it wasn't on the agenda in time.
All right, we have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to disclose that I've been feeling lousy for the last 5 days, negative on COVID, but Joanne thinks it's foolish that I'm trying to participate, but I'm going to give it a try. But please forgive me in advance if I just get too tired and can't stay with you guys.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor, Jim,
Yeah.
Lauren,
Yes.
Tom,
I'll vote yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes.
All right, I'll vote yes as well. Okay, Anna, then item 8E out of order. Go ahead.
So DPW requested 2 emergency certifications. One is for removal of a beaver obstruction. It's not necessarily a dam, so it doesn't qualify under Board of Health for their emergency cert because there's still flow of water. It's just causing the kettle ponds to rise really high. And then the second one is to repair the culvert on Granville Road because the road is caving in as the pipe continues to rust out. And I had emailed both emergency certs to y'all.
Okay, Casey, you want to present the
Yeah, so
request?
the with the beaver, it's impounding and it's causing some flooding to the farmer that owns the land surrounding the pond. So it was his request, and he's got somehow it was brought up that DPW is being prevented by conservation. Like I said, that's not the case. I don't know where you're hearing that from. So we're trying to, what we'd like to do is just remove a little bit of the materials that have been deposited there and just to allow a little bit more water flow through there. So that's the beaver up on Root Road. This is about 1,300 feet south of the North Road intersection. Secondly, the culvert that's failing up on Upper Granville Road. So that one, right now, there's a road hazard. We've got like a cone in the road. So it's only a matter of time before something bad happens there. Because now that that road's been paved, people travel on it at much faster rates of speed. So if you're not familiar with it, you don't know it's there, it's certainly a road hazard. We're looking to get it fixed. So ideally, you know, I'd like to move on it as soon as, you know, within this fiscal year, potentially. And that's why we're pushing for the emergency certification.
To
We've got a similar,
clarify,
go ahead.
the fiscal year ends June 31st.
June 30th, yeah.
And we've got a similar situation with a culvert that's rotted out up on Old Long Pond Road. So that's up the end of Old Stage. You take a left, it kind of parallels the Southampton border. So we've got another culvert for what I believe is an intermittent stream that is rotted out and the road's falling into it. I don't know that Anna sent that one over to you guys. Did that one make it?
Yeah, I sent them both their way.
And there's another culvert that we're going to proceed with a notice of intent with that one. So this is Lower Granville Road, right by, is it Fox? No, by Wood Road. So there's a culvert right there that John Patterson will be presenting later tonight. So we also want to do some investigatory work and potentially replacement of the pipe that runs there, but that's not as imminent of a danger.
Well, what do you propose to do on Upper Granville Road? I mean, emergency cert really doesn't explain
Right.
the
So
actual, you know,
I sent
What?
kind of a description to Anna earlier this week, maybe it was late last week, I forget. But the, what we'd like to do is ideally would work when there's no flow coming through there, or minimal flow, but we want to sandbag off that flow, bypass pump. So until we dig, rip out the old culvert and replace it with a HDPE corrugated pipe.
So the culvert goes across the entire road. You're gonna have to rip up the entire
Both
road?
sides, yeah, we would open up one side, you know, bury it, plate or put the plate over it, open up the other side and finish putting the pipe in. And then it would be backfilled, and we're hoping, we're looking to reuse the head walls that exist up there.
Mhm. Is there a flow through there all the time?
You know, I'm not sure about in August what it looks like, but last we were there, there was definitely a flow. I don't remember how soon it had rained prior to.
It's classified as intermittent.
Okay. And Can we ensure that the bottom of the culvert is at the same level as the stream bed?
Yeah, we'll make our best efforts to do that.
That's actually something that I recommend putting in the special conditions, that it follows the river crossing guidelines that have been set forth.
But this isn't an NOI, this is just an emergency cert request.
Yeah, emergency certifications can have special conditions as well.
They can, okay.
Mhm.
Are any questions from the commission?
Okay,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have one question.
Yes,
Wasn't that road just repaved 2 years ago and they replaced a bunch of culverts? How did this one get missed?
So Bob, yeah, we wanted to replace this back then, but funding would not support the replacement of this. So yeah, this was one that we'd hoped to do, but we just didn't have the budget to do it.
But the whole road was redone and they did a bunch of culvert work.
Yes,
correct?
we did, I want to say $80,000 worth of culvert work there with some of the lower culverts, and the embankment was sloughing off into the brook. You know, so yeah, this one, we just didn't have the funding to include as part of the project.
So did you know that at that time that culvert was failing?
We knew it wasn't in the best of shape, but there again, did you want the road paved? It was in, you know, we had to make certain sacrifices.
mhm. All right. Other questions or comments from the commission?
yeah, hey, Casey,
Yes, Tom.
first, off, thank you very much for coming to us before doing the, much appreciated. Root Road, who is the farmer, landowner you refer to?
John
Ouch.
Couch, is it? 354 Root Road.
When I drove by, and correct me if I'm wrong, and he knows a ton more than I, but it seemed to me that those ponds were at a very low level compared to previous years. But he's experiencing flooding.
That's what he's stating. Yes, it backs up onto his property.
Tell me a little bit what you'll do. You're going to take off the top?
Yeah,
Is
I
that-
would like to clam off the top, say 6 inches or foot, to allow water to kind of crest over and enter into the culvert flowing eastward.
And how badly plugged is or clogged is the culvert?
It's bad enough that I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's underwater.
So while you're there, will you try to do that, or?
Well, we want to we ideally have a controlled release where we let out a minimum amount so that you don't have catastrophic, you know, flows downstream. So this crosses east under Root Road, then it crosses north under North Road, and it kind of makes its way north towards the Manhan River.
Mhm.
So if I'm understanding, you're going to just remove woody material. You're
Yeah,
not
the
going to be
deposited
digging in,
debris vegetation. Yeah.
Mhm.
and you're not going to be digging in the silt that's.
No. And it's, I believe that's a 36-inch culvert. It's a pretty good sized pipe that's blocked up.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you, Casey.
Other questions or comments?
Are you discussing both emergency certs right now or just one at a time? Because I think the Beaver one is pretty straightforward, but the other one may not be as straightforward.
I-
Mr. Chair, I'd be
what way?
willing to,
Karen,
Sorry?
in what way?
Well, the beaver one is pretty straightforward where the machinery will be on the road and it will reach into the culvert and remove materials, a couple inches, and that's fine. I think that's pretty straightforward. The other one is a culvert replacement, which is a little more detailed as far as how they're going to do it. we don't.
Very large project.
Yeah. So I'm just not sure if we have enough information. I haven't really looked at the details of what they've submitted as far as construction sequence and size of the pipe and level of the culvert and all that. I mean, there's a lot of questions for that one. So I'm not sure how detailed you want to get on that one.
Well, they have 2 weeks with the money. That's the problem.
Right. No, I get it.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Casey.
Yes,
So Casey, will you have to dewater that? Or I
If,
guess, I know you said you're gonna work on half, then put a plate down and put the new pipe in. But I mean, how are you going to handle the flow? And does there have to be a diversion or
Yes.
dewatering? I mean, I guess what are you going to be? I guess we're all thinking about what's the process you're going to follow.
so I would imagine what we would do is, if there were flows, we'd try and do it during, a drier stretch, obviously, but we would need to sandbag and then bypass pump to keep the work zone dry while we hit the, rip out the old pipe and then reinstall the new one.
Okay, so you're going to put a cofferdam in there and that type of an arrangement to give you a work area?
Kind of, but it's, the flows are not that, what I've seen, we haven't seen significant flows there, so it wouldn't
Okay.
be a substantial structure by any means. I mean, I would think, a couple dozen sandbags would be what we would use.
Yeah. Casey, do we have pictures of this? You just sent pictures. I'm trying to orient this project to which picture.
I don't think I ended up making it out there to get photos because of the way my schedule works. Do you want me to pull it up on GIS for you so you can see the location of it, the elevations, things like that? Okay.
Yeah.
So while she's doing that, I just want to mention when they issue the emergency cert, it's only good for 30 days. So I appreciate you trying to do it in a low flow time, but we don't want to, I guess, curtail you to a certain time period that doesn't work for you.
Right. I anticipate this being like a 3-day project is what it would take.
So maybe even we could have the paperwork issued to you prior to when you're actually going to do the work, because again, it's only good for 30 days, can't be extended. So just throwing that out there.
No, that makes sense.
mhm.
The fact you're saying you could do it in 3 days, also, I guess there's a little bit more peace of mind with that, knowing it's not going to stretch over time.
So this is the location right here. It's an unmarked stream.
Okay.
And it drains to Cook Brook, and it's literally right on the border of Westfield.
Yeah.
And it is a downhill slope.
It's Granville.
Oh, you know what? I do have photos because Joe Kettner sent me the photos. That's the photos.
Okay. So this is
So that's from above the culvert. You can see that the head wall is falling apart here a little bit from the erosion that's been happening. And then there is,
And that was the downstream side.
Yeah, this is the downstream stream side right here.
Okay,
So this is where that above image is where that erosion is happening. But aside from that, the head wall looks like it's in pretty good shape. And then this is the upstream side. So what's going on is there's this pooling happening here because it's not level yet. The culvert isn't level with the water flow.
Hi, Kitty.
And you can see the construction cone on the top
Yeah.
left there.
The nice
Right.
cone that covers the big hole. But essentially the pipe is corroding and you can actually see it right here falling apart.
are you gonna armor this after you get it in or put in some stone, Casey?
Yeah, that would be the plan. I would think we would want to stabilize any compromised surfaces, but we could try and revegetate if that's preferred.
I know that Eric Lancome had mentioned the use of natural stone to help with the water flow in and out of the culvert versus riprap.
We could make that part of the project.
Can I ask why the road is failing? And are you fixing that issue?
The road is failing because the pipe is rotted out, so it's
Okay.
taking in material from above. It's sucking down.
Okay, so this
So
will
it's
fix,
collapsing.
right,
It's
gotcha,
collapsing down in, okay.
gotcha.
All right, what's that outfall in the smaller opening?
That's part of the drain network west of the location.
All right. Is that involved with this project also?
No, we weren't planning on doing anything with that.
Okay.
Any trees coming out, major vegetation?
I don't think there's any major vegetation removal associated with this project. Obviously, within the extent of where the pipe is, we need to get in there and touch those, but I
Right.
don't think there's any major significant trees that would be lost as part of this.
It's not to the level of City View Culvert where they
Right.
had to take out all those trees and do stumping and stuff like that.
Hmm.
No floodplain, no rare species, hopefully.
No rare species, floodplain. I believe so. No floodplain.
Nice, okay.
I guess my question is, have they submitted, Anna, a detailed sequence of what's going to happen and the,
Yeah, so
that
the
they're using-
sequence would be installing the erosion control, obviously first and foremost. Followed by, if the river's not dry, putting in the sandbags in the pump station. If the river is dry, then they won't even have to use the mechanics of that sorts. They would remove the head walls, remove the pipe and replace it with the plastic pipe and then put the head walls back to where they were. And then we could require revegetation if we would like to do that to stable on the erosion of the bank. I don't know if I am missing anything else.
And I just have one question. You mentioned river. Is it river or is it stream?
Stream, apologies.
Okay.
Okay.
It's an intermittent stream.
Casey, who's doing the work? You or a contractor?
We would have Raymakers do the work.
Okay.
if this is, this isn't an NOI, so we can't bond it.
Right.
On city projects.
It depends
there's
on who the contractor is, yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a 3-step methodology in the bonding section of the order conditions, depending on government, private, et cetera.
Okay. All right, any other questions or comments from the commission?
No, I mean, obviously there's urgency, get it done. I just would feel better with a snugger order of a construction sequence,
Mhm,
but got to get done.
mhm. All right,
Perhaps the answer to that, Jim, is to ask Casey to stay in touch with Anna and Karen and allow them to try to be there when the erosion controls are put in place.
Yeah, we could absolutely do that. And we're going to do whatever the commission requests or needs. Obviously, we're concerned about protecting water quality and the species that are up there. But also, you know, we don't, we want to get this done quickly before, you know, some tragedy happens, you know? So, and like I said, I don't want to do a hasty, wasty project here. We'd like to do it, you know, and Rainmaker is going to do whatever we ask them to do. So if there's certain requirements and you want that natural fields or natural stone, we can certainly accommodate that.
Well, I think one key is the location of the level of the bottom of the culvert. So you don't get pooling at the upper end.
It's 25% or embedded 25% or 2 feet deep, depending on the size of the culvert.
Mhm. Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience concerning this project? Even though it's not a public meeting or hearing, but just want to get anybody's input.
Just one final question. Do you need a guardrail, Casey? Because it looked kind of steep there.
I got a couple dozen locations in town that could probably use guardrails, but if that would be a preference of the commission, we can certainly build it into the project.
It's just something if you want to ask for it. I'm just.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So how do you want to write this up, Anna? How does the commission want to write it up?
Yeah. So as of right now, I have it written as the methods which Casey gave to me in an email writing and then repeated here at the meeting tonight of how they would go about replacing the culvert. And then I have special conditions for installation and approval of erosion control measures by the commission or coordinator prior to work. And then I list off the minimum requirements for crossings, which is the culvert pipe. So how deep it has to be embedded, how wide it has to be, things like that. And y'all can add any other special conditions that you might like.
I guess I'd just point out, I don't think you're going to achieve openness ratio here. I think you're replacing a like-sized pipe. You know, if we want to attempt to embed it a little bit, I think that's fine. But you're also dealing with a smaller circular pipe here. So,
Right.
you know, the goal of this kind of culvert is to keep it clean, quite frankly. So, you know, if they lower it a little bit to try to eliminate that pooling and that perched condition on the upstream, I think that's an enhancement. But overall, this is going to be a like-size replacement, I think. So, given that it's intermittent, that's probably okay. And given the urgency with the road failing. So I wouldn't write the openness in because I don't believe it's achievable under this project.
And write what now?
The openness ratio, the
Okay.
concept of the openness ratio, that would probably turn this into a small bridge or something.
I've got to run to my next meeting. Do you guys have anything else for me at this point? And I can stay in touch with Karen and Anna moving forward on this project.
I think we're good now, Casey. Thank you.
Okay, and our mowing contractor had inquired if the commission would prefer the Northwest Road conservation area mowed. So I said I would look into it. So,
All right.
but he does our roadside mowing as well as a couple other specialty mows for us. So,
Okay, thank you.
all right.
Thanks, Casey.
All right. Thank you everyone for your
Thank
time.
you, Casey.
Bye.
Bye.
I guess I would add one thing, Anna, if, you know, when they put the pipes in, could you or Karen go out and make sure that that the level is okay?
Yes.
You know, we've had projects where it wasn't and they'd have to dig it back up again and redo it. So I think if you just took a look at it and say it's okay, it would save time.
If I could recommend maybe having photographs pre-construction and then compare them to post-construction, at least we'll have that. And maybe Annie
Okay.
can go there and take a few
Yeah.
pictures. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, include that, please.
And also please the armoring of the slope with appropriate size, either natural or quarry rocks. And
Okay.
I don't know if we need it. There needs to be some kind of bank stabilization. I don't know how they're going to do that. I guess you folks can figure that out in the field.
What are they showing in? Are they showing like riprap? Are they showing loam and seeding? Are they mentioning it at all? Or
The thing that Eric said to me was the use of natural stone in order to stabilize it. That's kind of it at the inlet and the outlet.
Whatever works. It's probably like 25 or 15, 25 pounds stone.
I just have one more question.
Yes,
They said they were gonna sandbag it. Now, it's a 3-day project. Is that gonna get sandbagged for 3 days and the water level is gonna come up?
They would sandbag it in order to use the pump station. So if they
Okay.
had to use a pump to redirect the water
Okay.
around, so they would sandbag it off and then the pump would go around it and back onto the other side.
So for 3 days, that would get pumped for that 3-day period, because they gotta install the pipe on the other side. You can only do so much per day. I think they gotta do half the road and then the other half the road, if that's what I heard.
Yeah, depending on the flow, of course. He
Yes.
may the pump if the flow is low. And hopefully it will be this time of year.
If they need to use pumping, Anna, just make sure it discharges to either a sediment sack or a small little sedimentation basin. just so
Yeah,
that we don't.
yeah, I was thinking the
Like a
same
nudie
thing,
sock?
Alex. Yeah.
That was my question. I was worried about the pump and what precautions were gonna be taken with the water.
Yeah, it would need its own discharge control, basically.
okay. With all those additions, do you have a motion to approve the emergency certification?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I think it'd be wise to deal with these separately.
I was going to,
There's two emergency certs in front of us.
right,
I didn't know we were finished with recommendations. I think Karen's idea of a guardrail is well worth the couple of grand or whatever it would cost if it's and we can do it now and maybe impact something bad from happening down the road.
well, Casey said he had a list of places for guardrails, so he may not have the funds right now to do it.
well, you can throw it on there. If they don't do it, they don't have to.
Right, we can include it, that's true, yeah.
Right.
All right, let's do the Beaver one first. We have a motion to approve the emergency certification for the Beaver problem on Route Road.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Chair.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Just that, again, I think this is all, I think Casey understands where we're coming from, but I'd feel much more comfortable if the Conservation Commission was represented either from Anna or Karen when they begin this beaver dam modification.
Trust me, I expect to be involved. The DPW has been working really well with me with keeping touching base every so often on what their projects are and asking me to come down to a location and review it just to double check and make sure or review a permit with them. So the working relationship has been really good so far.
Glad to hear that.
And you can go too, Tom, and watch them.
If I was
See if
notified,
the beavers come after you.
yeah, the Hamden, those ponds or the Brickyard ponds are one of my favorite spots.
Okay, all in favor? Jim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Tom,
I'll vote yes.
Alex,
Yes,
and I'll vote yes as well. Thank you. All right, do we have a motion to approve the emergency certification for the culvert on Granville Road?
I'll give you that motion as well.
All right, do we have a second?
Before I second it, as part of the motion, should we build into the motion some of the things we've talked about?
I think we already did.
All right,
Anna's
as
got
long
the
as
list,
the motion
right?
as long as the motion reflects that, I'll make the second.
Okay. You want to read what you have, Anna, under discussion?
Would be installation and approval of erosion control measures by the commissioner coordinator prior to work. Amendment of the culvert to water level, use photographs pre and post construction, armoring of the slope with appropriate sized rocks, preferably natural. Use of turbidity sock, because that's what I'm calling it right now, because I think that's what it's called. For discharge control and installation of a guardrail is what I have. Hopefully I didn't miss anything.
I'm very comfortable making the second.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Jim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Thank you. All right, entertain a
Hello?
motion to return to regular order.
Yeah, I'll give you that motion, Mr. Chair.
We have a second.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor, Jim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, item 3, public meetings. A, 240 Russellville Road. Again, continue from 5/24/2022. Do we have an update?
I
Yeah.
have no update other than the house was listed on the market for sale and the seller or the attorney was requesting a COC. And I was just like, we don't issue COCs for RDAs, so Oscar would just have to retract his permit or his application if he wishes to no longer go forward.
Okay,
So, in other words, there's a chance that this property that some other unknowing home buyer could come along and say, oh, great place, and won't know anything about what we talked about.
It's listed in, so the fact that the septic system needs to be replaced is listed in the advertisement for the house, and its sale description. Aside from that, like we've said previously, it's recorded in the deed about all the stuff that we have talked about. So that would be on their closing attorney if they have a good one, to point that out to them, and then that attorney won't have a civil suit on their hand.
okay.
So the enforcement order that we issued to the owner would obviously apply to a new owner, but would he even know about it?
The enforcement order would apply to the property owner.
Yes,
Yes, so I don't know
I don't either.
how that would work out, but I would assume it would get passed along. That's beyond me.
Hi, do. Hello.
Yes, Oscar.
How you doing? Yeah, it's good. You don't know everything, but you know how I have no choice to do this one because you guys you didn't help me anything from the beginning, and there is every time I cannot continue with this one because you never help me, and this is a big property. If you go there, it's a big land. You just guys allow me to do a tiny tank. What I'm gonna do with that one? If it's a big property, just you imagine. What you choose me, let me, I have no choice. I'm keeping, this is like almost half a year. And what I have to do is just sell it. Maybe somebody else can figure it out. So,
Well,
I mean, you let me no choice because what
I
I'm gonna
would feel
do
more-
in a tiny tank, when I'm gonna do it? I have a family. I'm not only me, That house is not for vacation. It's so you let me no choice. I do everything right from the beginning. I get the plans, I get this and that. And you right now come you should allow me to do like tiny tank, and the property is big one. There's more houses there, and the house was already there. I'm doing everything right. And you guys let me no choice to when am I gonna do it? Just
Oscar, I feel bad that you bought a piece of property without doing proper research on it. And I feel bad that whoever the lawyer was for your brother didn't tell you some of the things that are on the deed of this property. But my concern now is that we should have the enforcement, we should get it cleaned up before the land transfers. I don't know if we have any legal recourse there or not, but otherwise, the stakes should be put back. The boundaries should be marked again so that we don't relive this nightmare in 6 months or a year.
all right.
so I mean, I do what I have to do it, I get the plans, I pay the lawyer, I pay I mean, what choices you leave me? This because the hell apartment, they approve me to do the septic is you guys. So what the choice you know what I mean?
Unfortunately, Oscar, this permanent limit of work that has put you to this point of having to sell that property, it is something that is a legal document, and that was something that's out of our control, that it was not disclosed to you, because it should have been, and even your contractor who you hired for those plans should have been aware of it. Because it's mapped on your plans, that permanent limit of work actually that you proposed to us. Unfortunately, I wasn't here at the start of the when you first proposed it. I only got hired in April, so it wasn't caught until Cannon and I were able to review the project back then. But as soon as we realized it, we did inform you, and we tried to get you the right and proper information. And it just came down to the fact that everything has to be within that permanent limit of work, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Anna, can you check with legal and find out if there's a way for us to ensure that the property is restored? Oscar and his people came in and changed things. They dug holes, they removed, they added trash. They I really think it's your responsibility, Oscar, to put that back right before you put a for sale sign in your front lawn.
Mhm.
I mean,
Toward the end, I would like to know if
I understand what I said, but I have no choice. Since I starting, you say I'm gonna next meeting, and already past 5 months, and now allow me to do a tiny tank. What I'm gonna do with tiny tank if I have family? And the property is I don't know how much. It's more than almost half an acre. It's it's not a small area, and you just allow me to do it a tiny tank there. And I don't know how to fight with this. I don't know what to do in that. So, I have expense to there, and I'm doing from the beginning, everything I do right. I'm not just going doing, because it was approved, the thing. And since I want to start and then, moves to this one, and now I have no, what am I gonna do it?
Mhm.
Keep waiting? The tax is not waiting for me. The light also not waiting. Not those things not waiting. So you also have to
Well,
give me like kind of solution, something. Because if I put a tenant tank, okay, it's done. But what I'm gonna do with that? I'm not.
Isn't-
I'm going to live there, and it's not only vacation thing. So that's the thing.
So, Oscar, are you looking to withdraw your proposal for your current tank, or your current proposal for the tank, because you don't want to do the tight tank if you're going to be?
I'm not gonna do
living
that
there?
kind of thing. What I'm gonna do with it? I'm not gonna do that. This
Okay.
is a house. This is a family. What I'm gonna do with this one? The tiny tank is just for vacation. And this, just think it. I mean, if you see the property, it's not that the pieces of things. There's no houses there, and the house was already there. I'm not doing it from the beginning. It was a septic already there. I do the right. I move everything. I kind of take the new plans. I do everything what I have to do it. I pay the expensive tank. I'm gonna do it. I was having the contract there, and now you come to do a small tiny tank. What I'm gonna do with that? To clean every week? You think it's good? This good now? You go with your family, lives there, and every week you have to call it to clean it up. That's
Oscar, our hands are tied. We don't, we can't go against a legal document that's in the deed. So,
If we allowed you, Oscar, to build outside of that, everybody would be breaking the law. You would be breaking the law, the commission would be breaking the law. It is illegal to construct outside of that permanent limit of work. And it's very unfortunate that, yes, you did everything right and you went through the processes correctly. And it's so unfortunate that it was missed that building envelope was there. But the commission can't allow you, legal can't allow you. You just can't build outside of that.
all right, well, thank you.
So back to my question, what happens if we have an enforcement order on a piece of property and that property changes hands? I assume the new owner is responsible for cleaning up the mess, but
Right.
do we just hope that that their lawyer is more astute than Oscar's and looks at the deed and tells the new owner that, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. Or is there something we can do now to help to make that property get clean, to make that property be put back to where it was, to make it be properly staked so that new owners or prospective owners know what they're getting into?
I think that is something, and it's a valid question and point. I think that we've got to ask Anna to talk with our attorney and ask her to explain what the process would be to ensure that anything that is developed there is developed within the constraints of the deed. So we've got to have legal advice ourselves. But I think it's more the city does. It's not, it sort of ended up with us. But
if you're speaking to making sure that the next property owner builds within that building envelope, that to inform that property owner, it's already deed recorded. There's nothing else we can do to make sure that property owner knows about it, because it is on their closing attorney to inform the buyer that exists.
I think
That is
Tom's
not on the
question,
commission.
I think
Tom's question is referring to the enforcement, which is on the later on the agenda.
Well, does it carry over with the sale? But I agree with you,
Yeah.
and it is later, not now.
All right.
And I would recommend coming back to it then, because we can discuss what needs to be done and what should be prioritized in that sense.
All right, thank you. All right, so let's move on and we'll come back to this.
I guess,
But
Mr. Chair, is Oscar trying to withdraw the RDA?
Yes,
or
that is the question.
Without prejudice? I think that's what this item was for. His attorney wanted a certificate of compliance, but we never issued a permit. So I think he's trying to withdraw his application without prejudice so that there's no open DEP number on the property.
But you have to get at that in writing. He has to
Right.
request that of you. That he's withdrawing his application, whatever that,
Yeah, just sends a letter to the office.
correct, email, letter, whatever.
All right,
So Oscar, if you would like to withdraw your application for your proposed system, that cannot be allowed. You would have to either mail in a letter to us saying you are withdrawing it, or email it to us.
I mean, I have no idea. I called the lawyer, and maybe what he did, I didn't know that. I was calling, maybe he did that.
So in order to sell the property, it has to essentially any permit has to be closed out. So you have a permit that's currently in process with us that you're applying for, and it would either need to A, be approved or B, withdrawn. It can't be approved, so you would have to withdraw it if you were no longer looking to do this.
all right. So again, send a letter or an email to the office notifying that you are going to withdraw that application.
Anna, would you find out from legal if the same applies to an enforcement order?
Yes,
Well,
I
we'll come to
can.
that when we get to the enforcement later in the.
We issued the
agenda.
enforcement.
It's on the agenda later in the meeting.
Just, so you know, enforcement orders run with the land.
Yes, they do.
Right.
Put that in there.
All right, thank you. All right, item B, 1058 Russell Road. So in accordance with provisions of Massachusetts general laws, chapter 131, section 40, public meeting will be held on 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, June 14, 2022. A virtual meeting regarding a request for determination of applicability submitted by Saad Mohammed to determine whether the work is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act, whether the area and/or work is subject to the jurisdiction of any municipal wetlands ordinance at 1058 Russell Road, and asking work and ordinance. Anna.
Yeah, so this was brought to me literally just after the deadline for the last meeting. The tree currently shades over a garden, which the family uses for fresh produce, and they're just looking to remove it. It is a singular large maple tree. It's across the street from the Westfield River. There is a stream, an unmarked stream that runs through the adjacent property. And I believe the tree is outside 50 feet of that stream.
Mhm. Is the tree part of a forested area or is it all by itself?
Yes and no. There is a forested area, but the tree is in the yard.
It's in the yard, okay.
Yes.
All right. Is Mr. Mohammed here? I think you want to
Yes, I
speak
am.
to your project?
Yes, I am. So we recently moved into this house, I think September or August of last year. And we didn't know anything about the laws of like wetlands or anything. So I initially, I think last early fall of last year, I reached out to the conservation committee, and the lady that used to work there, I don't remember, Meredith, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, she came out and I was looking to get more trees removed, but she told me it's kind of hard to do that, and she explained the laws, and I understood that. But the tree that I'm trying to remove is covering. We have a garden in the backyard that we just put. It's about 30 feet by 15 feet, and it covers the shade from this tree covers the garden from like 1 p.m. until the end of the day.
Why did you
Anna,
put your garden there?
I don't have any other space to put it. Like where else am I supposed to put it?
mhm.
How far from the stream is this tree?
The street or the tree?
The stream.
How far is the stream from the tree?
I would say about 60 to 75 feet. I didn't measure it, but just estimating.
So, Anna, does the tree provide any shade for the stream?
No, because
Okay.
of the distance that it is away from the stream.
Any other questions from the commission?
I'm just
And,
trying to clarify, I'm looking at the property through Google Earth now. And to the applicant, is this the tree? As you look at the house, is it on the back left?
Do you mind if I share my screen with you guys, and I'll show you what tree I'm talking about?
Okay,
You see my screen?
not yet.
Do you see it now?
We see a lot of code.
Oh, sorry, I have it on the other screen. Okay, so it's this tree right here. This one. The stream is more like over here. So it's mostly these two big branches that are covering the yard, and my yard is like over in this area.
Okay.
The garden is over in this area.
All righty, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Any further questions
just
or
to
comments
add,
from the commission?
just to add one more thing. I remember Meredith told me if I were to cut down a tree, I would need to plant a few trees, and I already planted 3 fruit trees, and I'm waiting for one to arrive in the mail, and I have 3 berry bushes that I'm gonna plant.
Oh, good, thank you.
Yep.
Any questions or concerns from the commission concerning this particular project? Seeing none, any comments or concerns from the audience concerning this particular project? All right. Seeing none, entertain a motion to close the public meeting.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
One second.
Or any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Tom,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, do we have a motion on the application?
Just one question. When can I start doing the work?
Oh, wait, sorry, the meeting's been closed, so
Oh, okay, sorry. I apologize.
Anna will tell you that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We have a motion on the application.
I'll make a motion for a +5, no notice of intent required, but no stumping of the tree. Applicant can grind, stump, cover it with soil, and replace the tree with 3 shrubs, of which he's done 2 already, I believe he said.
All right. The no stumping refers to a -3. So please.
I apologize. Okay, so let me clarify, +5 with note and no notice of intent required.
And -3 for the first part.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Do you have a
Sorry
second?
for the lack of clarity.
Okay. You have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Tom,
I'll vote yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Thank you. Okay, item C, 264 Union Street. In accordance with provisions Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, public meeting will be held at 6:30 PM on Tuesday, June 14, 2022. A virtual meeting regarding request for determination of applicability submitted by Doug Fuller to determine whether the work is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act and whether the area and/or work is subject to the jurisdiction of any municipal wetlands ordinance at 264 Union Street in Westfield, and asking work and ordinance. Okay,
Yeah,
Anna.
is Doug here? Doug, are you out there? I had some work.
I don't see.
I probably have nothing to worry about as far as a conflict of interest, but Doug Fuller does the construction work. He re-sided my house, put in new windows. I guess it would be appropriate for me to recuse myself. Therefore, I will.
You will, okay, thank you. Mr. Fuller, are you there? All right.
I
seeing-
don't believe he is, just
Okay.
because he didn't leave an email for me to send him the agenda.
All right. What about this project in Anna? Have you seen it?
I have not seen it yet. No, this is the first time it's proposed. I was reviewing his RDA from previous year of 2016. With the garden, the wetlands on the back half of the property, it's in the flood zone. The property is already paved. He's just looking to dig it up and replace it with new, I can't say that word, whatever that type of concrete pavement is.
Mhm. Well, usually we want elevations, I think, or quantities before and after.
Yes.
Do you want a site visit?
I don't think so, Mr. Chairman, unless others do. I do recall, I remember doing a site visit when he moved down there in the past. What was it, about 5 years ago? I didn't.
Yeah, that's about, yep.
Yeah, and so on a 1-to-1 replacement, I'm okay with it. But yes, we will need to know how many cubic feet he is removing and how much he's replacing. And it's got to be on some type of a audit trail and somebody's letterhead.
Mhm.
So we have something that's measurable. That's it.
All right. So we can include that as a condition on the determination.
So Anna, did I hear you correctly that he's replacing the existing? So it's a 1-to-1?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on your agenda with the notes. He wants to remove 2.5 inches of recycled asphalt paving and
Yeah.
replace with 2.5 inches of bituminous concrete pavement.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
All right,
So-
any further questions?
If I may, you have in the past allowed people to submit documentation, like Jim has said, from trucking companies showing volumes of materials removed and filled to show that there's no changes in elevation. Or you could do the plans, but those are a little more expensive. So whatever the commission feels is appropriate.
Yeah, we typically do the volumes, I think, yeah.
Right.
So we can add that as a condition of the determination.
Mhm.
All right, any further questions from the commission? Any questions from the audience concerning this particular project? Okay, I'm not sure how you want to do a -3 and then a +5, Anna? Like before?
That's what I would recommend.
Okay. All right, we have a motion first to close the public meeting.
So moved.
We have a second.
I'll second Jim's motion.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Tom?
Recused.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Jim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. Do we have a motion on the determination?
I'll make a motion that this be a +5. No, I'm sorry. Yes, +5, no NOI required.
Also needs to be a -3, correct, Darren? Okay. And we can include that they need to submit a volume documentation of the amount removed and the amount put in there.
Yes, -3, and then +5.
Okay. Any further discussion? Or so, excuse me, do you have a second?
Second
think you-
motion.
If I may, you would just say post-construction, that information would be submitted, Anna, just to
Okay.
be clear.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor, Tom, oh, sorry, Tom, Jim,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Thank you. All right, item D, 47 Castle Hill Road. Proposed installation of fence in backyard. So in accordance with provision of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, a public meeting will be held at 6:30 PM on Tuesday, June 14th, 2022. A virtual meeting regarding a request for determination of applicability submitted by Brittany LaRose to determine whether the work is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act and whether the area and/or work is subject to the jurisdiction of any municipal wetlands ordinance at 47 Castle Hill Road. Again, asking work and ordinance. I thought I saw her here.
Brittany's husband is here.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, yeah, Rob LaRose.
Okay. Want to tell us about your request?
Yeah, we'd like to install a 4-foot aluminum fence in our backyard. Backyard's pretty tight and it's on a 60-foot slope that's headed down to Jack's Brook, which I believe makes us in the wetland buffer.
Mhm.
So I was just requesting permission to put the fence in. I don't see how it could impact the wetland or the stream at all. So
Okay. So this is proposed at the top of the slope.
at the top of the slope, yeah.
Are there any trees that are going to be removed?
There's a few. There's maybe 8 saplings, and then there's 2 pines that are under 4 inches. That's it.
All right. So you're about, you said 50 to 60 feet from the brook?
Well, it's tough to call. The GIS you guys provide is great, but Jack's Brook has shifted a bit since then, so that's why I'm reaching out.
Mhm.
We're 60 feet on a slope, but laterally on a plane, we're probably within 30 feet.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if I may, this location is directly down the street from 33 Castle Hill Road. So if you're familiar with that slope, it is about the same.
okay. So it is a good distance from the brook.
Yeah. It's more downhill. I mean, you can throw a ball into the stream, but it's going to take you 5 minutes to walk.
Okay.
What
You
kind
been
of
out there,
fence?
Anna?
I have not, no.
Oh, okay. All right. Are
What
you
kind
not
of,
going
what
to
kind of
site
fence
visit?
are we talking about? Chain link, stockade?
4-foot aluminum fence. Purpose is we just got a dog. We need room for him to exercise.
I'm sorry, I had trouble hearing that answer. What kind of,
4-foot aluminum. Yeah, mainly the reason we're getting it is for a dog who needs exercise. there's really nowhere to let them out without a leash.
Okay, do you recommend a site visit, Anna?
I would, just so that we can see the distance in which the fence is going to be placed from the slope, because you don't want the slope to erode in any way and, the fence go with it. So just so we could review that, I do have a site plan which demonstrates where the fence is going to go, but I do think it would be good to see the site for ourselves.
All right. Okay, so
It's not flood zone or floodplain or anything, right?
No, it's just buffer. Technically.
Well, it's riverfront area, right?
Sorry, riverfront area, yeah.
all right, so let's do a site visit before the next meeting.
Okay, if we come take a look.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you. Any other questions before we have a motion to continue? All right, so the office will contact you about a site visit before the next meeting.
All right, thanks for your time.
All right, thank you. All right, do you have a motion to continue to June 7th?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
So 27th or 28th?
28.
28th, sorry. Okay.
Bill moved.
Okay. All right, all in favor, Tom,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Lauren.
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Thank you. Okay, on to item 4, public hearings. 0 Southampton Road, again, Dealer Enterprises, continued from 5/24/2022. Okay, Ryan, going to give us an update?
Ryan Nelson from R. Levesque Associates, representing the applicant. Last time we had spoke, at the last meeting, there was some concern raised about or additional things to be added to the plan. Let me attempt to share my screen and I can review those with you. One of the items that was brought up was the request for conservation signage along the limit of work. So on C4 of our plan set on the layout sheet, we're showing conservation monuments along the limit of work. I believe there's a total of 11 of them. And to reiterate, all work is located outside the 50-foot wetland buffer. So these circles with the S for sign are the proposed sign locations. The other item that was brought up was a snow storage plan. I had forwarded those to Anna, and those had been provided to the planning board last week as well. Here's an example of a snow storage plan for commercial property. I can review those if you'd like, if the commission hasn't reviewed them yet. Otherwise, I can continue.
So Ryan, basically what this says is you're going to take the snow somewhere else?
If it accumulates on site and there's not enough room within the confines, I guess the second part of that is we've added a wooden guardrail along the back side of the drive aisle so that no snow will be pushed into the detention basin area. So if snow, depending on the amount, can't be fit in these grassed areas off to the side, then in that case, yes, snow would be trucked off site.
You've got a better feel for this site than I do, certainly. How big a snowfall will you be able to handle? Like 2 inches before you have to bulldoze it or remove it off-site?
I'm not sure of the amount. So you have these building roof areas. Technically, the snow would stay on the roof. So you're really just plowing these drive aisle areas.
Are they flat roofs, Ryan?
I'm not sure what the pitch of the roofs would be. I'm not sure if Mr. Gallagher knows, but at this point, also, any salting or de-icing of the parking lot, and sometimes asphalt gets a warmer temperature during the day, so it's hard to say how much sticks and how much accumulates. I can't say how much the site would hold.
Ryan Gallagher, the applicant. As far as the snow snow total approximate for when snow would have to be removed off site, it would be in like a 5+ inch range of an event that it would have to be trucked off site.
Okay, thank you.
Ryan, can we go back to that list, the snow removal text? Thank you. Thanks.
What is a portable snow melting machine? Number 9.
So that's technology that's been around for 20 to 30 years, and it's a unit that melts the snow and it goes down the storm drain. So you load the material into the machine, and it's agitated with water, and the water runs about 38 degrees, and it melts the snow, turns it into water from snow or ice. Commonly used in inner cities, urban areas. We're the only contractor within about 100-mile radius that has that technology currently.
Mhm. All right, thank you. Other questions from the commission? I guess there was a concern about dumping, Ryan. Are there signs related to, the absence or dumping or the problem of dumping there?
In any specific area or?
Or just people throwing stuff over the fence or, throwing stuff into the detention area?
Yeah, so this is the proposed fencing, a 6-foot chain link that comes off the back end of the building. Due to the grades right at the edge of the parking lot, it dropping off, I don't foresee anyone in this area being able to back up and truck stuff from their truck or whatnot over the fence. I think the guardrail along the detention area would inhibit a lot of that. But as far as areas up here, I mean, we're happy to add signs. We can put that language on the conservation signs. I think it already is on our standard detail.
Okay. Yeah, if you could put it on the conservation signs, it'd be helpful.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay.
Ryan, where does drainage go? Where does it end up?
So everything is drained interior in these parking lots or in the drive aisles. There's catch basins located at low points, and those route to the extended dry detention basin.
And is there sumps with them?
Yes, and there's a water quality treatment unit.
And you have a maintenance plan?
Yes, that's part of our stormwater drainage report, was a long-term operation and maintenance with intervals of what needs to be checked and maintained and cleaned out.
Okay, thank you. What are they, by the way? The intervals?
Sure, let me pull that up. Give me one moment.
Well, Ryan's digging for that. Was that approved by engineering? The stormwater plan?
Yeah.
Yes, so we had a discussion with Mark Crissati on May 3rd, and there was no outstanding stormwater comments from engineering.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And is there any specific language in the leases to prevent storage of harmful chemicals?
Yes, so we had submitted an example lease agreement. Let me just answer Jim's question first. about
Okay.
Operation and maintenance. So this is our typical long-term operation and maintenance agreement plan. And this is related to the specifically the stormwater system. So for example, the pavement areas to be inspected 4 times a year, be swept in March or April, and then again in late November or December for leaves, debris, and sand. For the deep sump catch basins, it gives you the intervals and when they need to be inspected and cleaned, stormwater piping, roof leaders, the water quality unit, the sediment forebay, the dry basin, level spreader, the flared ends, and then it gives, instructions, and then, winter and snow conditions, and then an estimated cost for the maintenance of all those items.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then as for the lease agreement, well, this right here, and in reference to the hazardous or storage of materials, specifically condition number 2. Tenant shall not place or keep in the premises explosive, flammable liquids, contraband, sediments, pesticides, herbicides, waste, road salts, insecticides, dissolved metals, fertilizers, oxidizers, corrosives, fungicides, arsenic, dry cleaning chemicals, pool products, including chlorine or other goods prohibited by the law, and agrees to abide by any rules promulgated by management government governing the use of these premises.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or concerns of the commission?
Mr.
One-
Chairman. No,
Yes, Karen.
yeah, go ahead, Karen.
Oh, sorry, Jim.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Regarding the melting of materials, that could constitute as thermal pollution if they're heating essentially stormwater and putting it, which it outfalls into the wetland. So I'm just throwing that out there. You may want to prohibit that activity.
Mhm. All right, okay, Jim.
I wanted to ask about water monitoring and what plans there are for that. That is something we talked about at the last meeting.
Mhm.
Ryan?
Sorry, did you say water monitoring?
Yeah, or water
Groundwater.
testing,
Groundwater monitoring.
groundwater. Yeah.
Okay. Around any particular area, are we looking for just to monitor? What are we looking for? The levels or contaminants?
Well, contaminants, obviously any runoff that might be contaminated by anything. We kind of left it to you folks to investigate it.
Ryan, I can speak to this. They had asked that if we, I believe what they had said is install a monitoring well similar to like what you guys would request in a gas station. That's correct?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that concept.
yep. So, we're on board with doing so. I guess is it determined, the location of it determined by you folks, or do you want our professional to pick the location? I know I had the discussion with Rob. Rob was on last time for this discussion, not Ryan.
I apologize to Ryan then. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Ryan.
That's
No.
okay. No, my fault for not picking up the loose end, but
No, good recovery, Ryan, though. You handed it off to somebody else. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, we might give some opinion, but we are not hydrologists. We would need to have a professional opinion as to the best location for groundwater monitoring.
Mhm.
okay. Is that something the commission would feel comfortable conditioning prior to construction? Groundwater monitoring well location to be approved? I mean, I'm not a hydrogeologist myself, so that's not my specialty. I would have to figure out the best place to put that as well.
I always recommend having everything before you approve, but that's my recommendation.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we're going to need the location to really tighten that up, and the type of monitoring or the manufacturer of the monitoring system. Really, all the details.
Okay. Any other concerns of the commission?
Yeah,
Other than that one.
from the resident tree hugger. Ryan, we also asked Rob to give us an idea of how many trees would be removed within the 100-foot buffer. I know nothing will be done within 50 feet, but outside that 50 to 100, did you guys have a chance to do a count?
We didn't do a count of, I guess, what's the cutoff? What size diameter would you be considering?
I think we've used 4 inches as our, I believe.
Okay, no, we have not done a count within the buffer zone area.
I'm sorry, Ryan, you're very faint, your voice.
Sorry, no, we have not done a tree count within that outer buffer zone area.
Could you make that happen?
I think so, yep.
It's my opinion that the tree policy will apply here, so that's important information.
Okay. Other questions from the commission? I've got 2 outstanding items in the water monitoring and the tree, or the trees. Anything else? All right. Any comments from the audience concerning this particular project?
Yes,
Please state your name.
Mary Ann Babinski.
Well, welcome, Marianne.
Hi, how are you? Good evening. It's a beautiful day today. I just, am I hearing that the intention is going to be to keep this public hearing open?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I guess I could save my concerns for then, when you finally come to it. But I just want to add, because I know there are some other people who couldn't make it today to this meeting, and we still have concerns with this and other projects like this from being sited near Armbrook and close to, if not over or partly over the aquifer. And the concerns with this development has the plans that we know that we've heard before is that they intend to continue. I don't know how much clarification you have still gotten on that, but this is not just the only part of this parcel of land that is planned for development. And what I heard the last time, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that they're planning to develop the property closer to Cumberland Farms, which is still going to be around Armbrook. I still have concerns, even though we did hear the last meeting that Master EP concurred that this section of Armbrook is intermittent. And those of us who have been concerned about all this development on the north side still have concerns about how it looked like this Armbrook was perennial for quite a while, or years ago it was anyway, and then now it is deemed intermittent. And what causes that? Is it because of all the development that we're doing? You can blame it on the beavers if you want. But, I think that we need to take that into consideration. This is not the only project, as we've heard, and the troubles that we're seeing up here on the north side. We just discussed one earlier in this meeting about the culverts and what's happening around Brickyard. So I think we have to take a long look at what we're doing here. I've worked when I was on the council with the Water Resource Protection Zoning and with BayPAC, and was the chair of the Natural Resources Committee. And we did have then, and still have, they have concerns with the development in this particular area. So I look at what the risks versus the benefits are. And I think that the risks far outweigh the benefit. Putting our natural resources and our habitats up there at further risk for storing stuff is, to me, not worth the risk. So I hope that we take all of these concerns into consideration. And if you're looking at all of the issues, I mean, this has been continued for how long already, that we have to be careful, that we make sure that we're tending to, and that we account for. I mean, is this really a good use, a good thing to do with this particular property up here? So I thank you for the opportunity to address the Conservation Commission, and I hope that the next meeting that some of the people who couldn't attend tonight will be on board again. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mary Ann. Anyone else?
I can speak to the intermittent perennial debate once again of
Sure.
my chain of emails, many emails that anyone would hate to be a part of because there are so many, but it involved, stream stats, USGS, DEP, and we essentially concluded that this part of Armbrook has been classified as intermittent since 1957 or 58. So it's been mapped by USGS as intermittent for over 50 years. We couldn't find anything that showed that it was perennial after that point. So the perennial argument, essentially, it can't be made only because it doesn't meet the qualifications under the Wetlands Protection Act. And if we wanted to make the argument, it would take years of studying the stream in person during non-drought seasons and recording it for 4 days straight over multiple years. So our hands are kind of tied on that one.
Okay. Well, thank you, Anna. Anything else from the commission before we entertain a motion to continue to June 28th?
Just an opportune time to ask, did the commissioners get a chance to look at the, there was a fascinating article in Estuary Magazine recently about the effects of impervious surface in what used to be in forested areas. And they talked about even small percentage. Their example was take 1 square mile of forest and put a 2-lane highway through it, which is minimal. I mean, that doesn't, you got a square mile, put up a road, a minor road through it. And you are going to, there's no documented, you're going to impact the quality of the water. You're going to impact the quality of the aquatic life that lives there. So it just reinforced everything that we've been trying to do in my mind, that even small projects like this do have an influence on the streams and the rivers, even if they're not abutting, even if they're 100, 200, 300 yards away from the resource area. Fascinating. They talked about the impact of the warmer water in the summer and in the warmer months, that after it hits the pavement and then goes into the streams and the creeks, how that insignificant amount of temperature rise will wipe out the lake trout, will wipe out the brook trout. I hope you get a chance to read it if you haven't already.
All right, thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, then entertain a motion to continue to June 28th.
I'll make that motion.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right.
Motion.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Jim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Thank you. All right, item B, 216.5 Belanger Road. Installation of Nitrex 1A nitrogen removal system. So the accordance with provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, public hearing will be held at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, June 14, 2022, by virtual meeting regarding a notice of intent submitted by Gregory Boisfair for the installation of a new Nitrex 1A nitrogen removal system at 216.5 Belanger Road in Westfield, an abbreviated notice of intent. And I think the applicant is here. Should I
Yes,
present your
Greg
project?
is here as well as, this is Gary Rubenstein with Lombardo Associates, the
Okay.
engineer for the job.
All right, you want to present your project, please?
Sure, yeah. All right, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this house has an existing septic system here, which was permitted and installed and approved prior to there being an issue with it being too close to a neighbor's well. So this house has been vacant for a couple of years now while they've been figuring out what to do about this. Also, the lot is too small for a 3-bedroom house based on the gallons per day per square foot requirements in Title V. So this property was merged with another property just a couple lots over here to get the required area needed for a 2-bedroom system. And what we're proposing to do here is to retain the existing septic tank here and install part of our treatment. The nitrate system is a 2-stage treatment process. So part of the system is going to go right here directly over the existing septic tank. And then a pump station that's going to pump the partially treated wastewater over here to the nitrates filter, which will then go to a 3-trench drain field over here. On this site, the 50-foot wetland buffer is right here along the line of the house. The tankage per Title V is permitted to be within that 50-foot, beyond the 50-foot buffer from the neighboring well, but it needs to be 100 feet. This is the 100-foot line from the neighbor's well. So we're required to move the drain fields out of the beyond the 100-foot setback over here. So the work will involve some excavation over here, some minor grading, installation of new trenches and tanks beyond the 100-foot buffer. And that's pretty much it for the work. We are proposing erosion sediment control measures along the perimeter of the entire work area. And just by the grading here, the natural flow of water is pretty much straight down the slope here. Obviously, it'll preferentially flow down the driveway and then make its way down into the pond.
Questions from the commission?
Well, to the applicant, could you give us a brief description and explanation of how does this thing work? How does it work, this nitrate system?
Sure. Yep. The nitrate system is like I said, it's a 2-stage nitrogen removal system. It takes septic tank effluent. If we look at the profile down here, this is the existing septic tank. We'll place a pump station in the second compartment of the septic tank, which pumps up to what is considered called a recirculating media filter. And in this process, the ammonia in the wastewater gets converted to nitrate, and then it recirculates throughout. It gets blended with the septic tank effluent, and you get partial denitrification here, where the nitrates get converted to nitrogen gas. And then the pump station will take it up to the nitrate system here, which basically is just a large carbon source. It mimics what wetlands do naturally in the nitrogen cycle. So denitrification, we got a carbon source, we've got the nitrates coming in, and those will be completely denitrified to nitrogen gas. And then the water that gets pumped in will flow by gravity to the distribution box and distributed between the 3 trenches in a standard trench drain field.
Okay, thank you.
And why are you doing this? Because you don't have enough property?
Correct. Yeah, there's a nitrogen loading restriction on properties in gallons per day per square foot, and by installing a nitrogen removal system, they can meet the nitrogen loading requirements for the combined area for the parcels.
Yeah, this has been tested and proven and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
the nitrate system is provisional use approval for Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection.
What is the other alternative? We had a proposal before us earlier where a similar situation. The gentleman didn't have enough land to do what he wanted to do. And we suggested to him I think we called it a self-containment. Did you consider that here?
I'm not sure what self-containment, like a tight
Well,
tank.
something that would have to be, something that would
yes.
something that would have to be pumped, something that you'd have to come in and pump out.
A tight tank, yes.
Right, yeah, no, a tight tank was not considered this because the department is in favor of this approach.
The department, you mean Department of Environmental Protection?
we have provisional use approval from them, which means it's left up to the local approving authority, and we have spoken with the local approving authority. They're in the process of reviewing the plans right now, but he did not have any objections to us using this system.
That's the health department?
That's correct, yes.
So am I hearing you say that this is more cost effective than a tight tank?
Oh, absolutely. The tight tank would be very expensive over time, and I'm not sure that the tight tanks are even. I'm not sure what. I mean, they're strongly advised against where there are other approvable alternatives. Tight tank is a last resort. This is an approvable alternative.
Got it.
All right, thank you. Anna, you want a site visit?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we'll arrange a site visit before the next meeting. But before that, any other questions from the commission? Seems like a very interesting project here. All right.
I have one more question. 216.5 Bellinger Road. Is that the Bellinger Road that's partially in Southampton? And just to orient myself.
I think so. It's on that corner.
I see a map, but it's too small to really orient. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's okay. That's all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the audience concerning this project? Again, it will be continued after due to site visit. All right, seeing none, entertain a motion to continue to June 28th.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
I'll second whoever made the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Tom,
I'll vote yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. Thank you. All right, item C, 558 and 590 Granville Road. Mr. Patterson. In accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts general laws, chapter 131, section 40, public hearing will be held at 6:30 PM on Tuesday, June 14, 2022 by virtual meeting regarding a notice of intent submitted by John Patterson for the maintenance of an existing drainage ditch at 588 and 590 Granville Road in Westfield.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Can I
Yes,
just say something? Can I recuse myself from this?
you certainly may.
Thank you.
Okay. Ryan, are you presenting this or is Rob?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Ryan Nelson from R. Levesque Associates, representing the applicant and owner, Mr. John Patterson. As stated, this is located upstream of the culvert that Casey was talking about earlier on Granville Road. The culvert's located right here, right near the intersection of Wood Road. So Mr. Patterson owns two parcels, 558, which is this cutout lot around the single family home, and then 590, which includes this house, and then a greater land area around the back. So the property slopes from the uphill side of Wood Road down to Granville Road. Historically, this property has been cleared and used as farm fields, not currently or recently, but if you look at historic aerials way back to 1957, this area is shown as farm fields, and as well as there's an existing drainage ditch that was created, we've been told, in the early 1900s, and the aerial imagery certainly does reflect that. There's an existing drainage ditch that starts in the hillside, and then it drains through that culvert that Casey was talking about underneath Granville Road. And in the past, several times over the decades, Mr. Patterson's family has routinely cleaned out the ditch, grows in with vegetation, sediment, and in the past, I believe he was issued an RDA, a negative determination, in 2004 to do that work. And he's looking to do that once again. And the problem that he's running into is that the past few years, especially this spring, the flow capacity of this drainage ditch has been impeded by all the vegetation and sediment, that it was overspilling its banks, and the water was staying within the ditch for so long that it was permeating through the ground and then discharging downhill within his lawn area. And it developed this wetland and flooding within his lawn area. And he's also getting flooding of some of his existing barns and sheds, and also within his basement of the house. So he'd like to excavate and remove the vegetation and approximately dredge 6 inches of the bottom substrate of that existing ditch. Now, the ditch, as the commission saw on the site visit, is full of wetland vegetation. It has the hydrology, it has the soils. So, and from a delineating standpoint, it does constitute as BVW. And that's why we're submitting this project under a limited project provision. And limited projects, as you know, or they give the issuing authority the discretion to condition a project provided it doesn't meet the normal performance standards. And in this case, that would be for BVW. So it's about 4,500 square feet of area within that drainage ditch. Obviously, we're not replicating, we're just restoring to its former conditions. And if I can read the language of this exemption, or not exemption, but limited project provision. Give me one moment. So this work is proposed as a limited project under 310 CMR 1053, section 3K, for the maintenance of a roadway-related drainage ditch to ensure flow capacities which existed before April 1st, 1983. So in this case, the ditch was created prior to that date, and Mr. Patterson is looking to dredge the bottom substrate of that ditch to restore the flow capacities that would existed prior to that date. Like I said, this would eliminate or greatly reduce the amount of flooding that's been occurring on his property. And I would think it would benefit the town as well, giving a more positive drainage through that culvert and not impounding near the culvert head wall. In terms of sequence and how this would be done, similarly, we would propose to do this during a dry stretch of weather, preferably in August or July. A sediment sock would be placed on the downstream side of the culvert on the opposite side of Granville Road to catch any silt or debris that would enter the culvert inadvertently. And then upstream, ahead of the culvert head wall, if you look at this inset blow up, a filter fabric screen would be entrenched within the it's hard to explain it without seeing it, but there's a depression. The land slopes from the road down to this ditch, and we'd be entrenching a silt fence or a filter fabric across that to act as a sediment barrier to catch any suspended sediment during the work that would continue downstream. The work would proceed from the downstream end and then continue upstream, with the thought process being that as you're working your way upstream, the drainage is getting better and better, and water is being able to be freed from these impounded pool areas.
Increase the flow across our property.
And then there are 2 upland areas adjacent to this ditch that we have delineated. You can see in the outside of the C wetland series, and then also here. What Mr. Patterson would like to do is with a small mini excavator rubber tract, he would drive parallel along the stream, and then with a grading bucket, just skim out those bottom 6 inches in the vegetation, and then stockpile and spread out the spoils within these upland locations. And due to the high organic content of the substrate of that ditch and the seed bank, we feel that if he was just to rake those or that sediment out over the existing lawn area, it would regrow, and then he would just continue to maintain it as lawn. A silt fence would be placed on the down gradient perimeter of those stockpile areas. And then also we'd be putting silt fence check dams along the stream once the work is complete. And then any exposed soil within the stream would be seeded with a wetland seed mix.
All right, thank you.
Ryan, what stream are you referring to?
This drainage ditch right here.
So you're calling the drainage ditch a stream? Or did I hear you wrong?
I mistakenly said stream. It's drainage ditch. That's how we've referenced all of it, but yes.
Does the drainage ditch have any tie to agriculture? I mean, does the fact that someone can make a trench through his backyard? I mean, for agricultural, I know there's a lot of exemptions for the farmers. God bless the farmers. But it seems, my first read is that you're draining a wetland.
So I can't say why the ditch was created. My guess is that when it was being farmed and tilled back in the day, it was to control probably sheet flow maybe around the house or groundwater discharge. And it has been cleaned out several times, over the past few decades. And if something, if Mr. Patterson's not allowed to do this work, I wish we could have had our site visit this spring, but there's literally a foot of water or potentially more after rain events in his backyard area that was standing in his shed. I'm not sure if there's really any other solution considering his house is at the low point of all of this.
Tom, I think that ditch was put in there when it was agriculture. It was farmed on the upland side of the ditch and also the downward side of the ditch. I was out on the site visit, and the ditch needs to be cleaned out because even last week, you could still feel the water in that lawn. It was very squishy, and it hadn't rained for a while. But I can't imagine having a foot of water back there.
So, David, would you consider this to be a resource area? Would you consider this to be a wetland?
We are technically, we are calling it a wetland, and that's why we're submitting under limited project provision, because we're altering a BVW without replicating. So we're not meeting that performance standard.
And will by cleaning it, you're not only cleaning, you're going to make it bigger and better, right? You're digging it deeper. And did I hear that part?
So we're not enlarging the width of it. We're just, if you think about it, just skimming like an inlay of 6 inches within the confines of the existing swale.
And as a result, will the wetland disappear? These wetland areas, will they go away? The answer is yes, right? I mean, that's why we're doing it, right?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, there's always going to be water flowing down that ditch. And he's putting in wetlands, seed mix in the bottom. So I think it's going to just allow that water to be spread out and not end up in his lawn and to work as the ditch should work. Part of the problem is the culvert needs to be fixed too at the road because the water's getting blocked there as well.
It isn't. No.
And that's Casey commented on that earlier,
Right.
didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
The water flow,
Doesn't get there.
it doesn't get blocked.
Other questions from the commission?
Is Mr. Patterson here, Ryan?
No, he is not. I don't know if he's computer savvy
Yes.
enough. I gave him
30
the phone link, but I'm not sure if he tuned in or not.
has this area been wet for 30 years, 40 years
Mhm.
in
Well,
the spring?
if you look back at the imagery, I mean, that's before my time, but there's aerial imagery from 1957 that shows this as an active, what I've been told is a potato field, and you can see it being tilled. Not to say that that doesn't mean it was wet, but
Yeah, potatoes like wet though, don't they?
Tom, I went out on the site visit too, and what it seemed like was it was just starting to fill in with debris, and then vegetation started growing on top of it. So just over time, it's built up where it's not quite as deep as maybe it was at one point.
right, there's a lot of reeds and phragmites and leaves that have kind of gotten caught up in the ditch that's not allowing the water to drain towards the culvert. It's stagnating and sitting there for too long of a period that it's then, dispersing elsewhere.
The drain isn't blocked. It never backs.
Other questions? Anna, Karen, any comments? Because you were out of the visit too.
No, I think it's a conveyance issue. He needs to reestablish the stream. I have no issue.
Yeah.
You're calling it a stream also.
No, it's
And
not.
would we allow somebody to go in and dig up a stream to make it flow better? I don't think so.
It's not a stream, it's a ditch.
Why is everybody calling it a stream then?
I don't know.
So it's a jurisdictional wetland. So let's just say that it's a jurisdictional wetland that they want to alter. I think it's doable under what they're proposing, and I have no problem with it.
If I may, they're classifying it and submitting it as a bordering vegetated wetland rather than a stream. So drainage ditch classified bordering vegetated wetland.
David, you're more sensitive to this than I, but you're comfortable with this, I'm taking it.
No,
I'm very comfortable with it because, I think historically, as he said, this was a farm, and it was a potato farm, and the farmer, put that ditch in there, to drain the water. And now, it's not farmed. The upland is a lot of grasses. It's not being tilled or anything like that. But the ditch, historically it's just been filling in. And so now it's not performing as it should, draining water. And again, this water is coming from Wood Road and the Fox Hill, the development up on Fox Hill, behind the house. So I think it's something that's necessary, to protect his property, to protect his house. And again, having a foot of water in that area and flooding your cellar, that's not a good thing. And
Not a good thing. Well, thank you, David. Thank you for making me, thank you for humoring me.
Well.
And if I may just add, this is not a in the woods stream. This is a highly altered, maintained over times. I'm calling it a stream. It is a stream. It needs to be maintained. So I think it's doable with, sorry.
I think one could make the argument that it started as a drainage ditch that was created by man and then became what is now classified as a stream, a man-made stream that is now maintained. So it poses its own problems, to say the least, of what it is. But I would definitely say started as a drainage ditch, became a wetland.
Okay, any other questions? Okay.
have you got to the public comment part yet?
Not yet, I'm getting there.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a comment as to the culvert. I know that I've been communicating with DPW about when they're going to replace that culvert. It's planned for the new fiscal year. They're working on getting me an NOI. Sorry, did I say replacing? I meant cleaning. So they plan to clean the culvert. There's a clear obstruction right in the middle of the culvert, which does cause the water to back up a little bit on the, I don't know which way this map is orientated, but onto Patterson's property, essentially. So the water does pool up on that side before flowing through the culvert, and then downstream to the river. I don't know if it'd be possible to coordinate that the two projects happen around the same time. I think that would be beneficial, but knowing the way that the city works, probably not.
Mhm. All right, thank you. If there are no other questions from the commission, yes, we'll entertain comments from the audience.
I would like to speak.
Yes, please.
My name is Angela DeRowan, and I lived across the street at 515 Granville Road at the intersection of Wood Road for 32 years. My husband lived there for over 50 years. And that culvert that Wood Road drains into and that Mr. Patterson property drains into, the damage that has been done to the property at 515 Granville Road is enormous. Significant erosion all the way to the Little River. Yes, it's been farmland. Yes, I completely understand why Mr. Patterson wants to dry out his property. I don't ever remember a time when it was not wet. The culvert, someone said that it is blocked and the flow is impeded. I have lived there. I can tell you it flows constantly. It may slow down a little bit, but when you've got the water that's coming off of Mr. Patterson's property and the rain that's coming off of Wood Road, that ditch, which when I first moved there, it was a 12-inch wide little ditch, much like Mr. Patterson's actually got sort of two ditches along his property. One is the ditch that Ryan was discussing, and there's another little ditch that's kind of like an indentation that runs a little bit closer to the house, which is also from time to time filled with water. So I get it. But the erosion that goes all the way from the road to the river is significant. Years ago, Don Winley had submitted a proposal to bury the culvert all the way to the river. That was in the 1980s. There are a couple of other culverts further down Granville Road that were installed long, long ago, not on city maps. And those are buried down to the river and they empty right out into the Little River. So when it rains, it becomes a torrential mess, significant damage to 515 Granville Road property. There is also from time to time a sewage smell. The city at one time checked to see where it might be coming from many years ago, but they couldn't determine with any, clear clarity where that might be coming from. I understand what he wants to do, but I don't believe that any work that is done to improve one person's property should have a negative impact and damage someone else's property. And by the way, we get it. We understand water. We're the people, the wackos on Granville Road, who when the city says it's going to rain, go clear out the drains. We're the ones that you'll see walking up and down Granville Road, clearing out the storm drains on the road. So I understand that. And when Wood Road was paved years ago, about 30 years ago, things were different. The city, we were living in the house. The city didn't do probably a great job putting a drainage in underneath that road. So it's all potholes and it's just a mess. And that water just pours into that ditch. In addition, the couple that lives across the street from us They've only been in that house for a year. They've got water problems. Everything that comes off of Wood Road goes into their backyard. It's a wet area. Everybody on the side of that hill has water issues. So I just, first of all, I don't see how the commission can go forward with this proposal without taking the culvert that Casey mentioned earlier into consideration. I don't know how the two of them can be looked at separately because they're related. It would seem to me that they need to be considered together. And that if it is allowed, it shouldn't result in any further damage to the property at 515 Granville Road. It all goes down to the river. There's a little delta at the entrance to the river where all that water goes. So I just would implore you to really carefully consider your next steps. I submitted yesterday to Anna a number of documents, which you hope may have at this point, that have addressed, that I've addressed concerns over the past many, many years. I still have those concerns. So I wanted to just make sure that was on the table so that you were aware, and that I think it would be wrong to approve, even though I understand it, I get it. It's a ditch that's been there for a long time. There are two ditches, but that combined with the water flow coming off of Wood Road has caused damage to 515 Granville Road. And I can say with certainty that it is not blocked. It's not blocked. It runs. And this spring has been a particularly wet spring. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Namaste, Angela.
Namaste, Tom.
If I understand what you're saying, we're just going to push this water onto someone else's property?
That's right. That's exactly right, Tom.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out.
Good. I asked a question though, and I did not go on a site visit in the recent past, but I did about 20 years ago in this on Wood Road. I only vaguely remember this. I thought all the water in this ditch actually went into the culvert under the road. I thought it was specifically directed to that. So
it does. It does. However, the culvert exits onto 515 Granville Road. It doesn't go into one of the other drainage pipes in Granville Road. It exits directly onto 515 Granville Road. And in fact, many years ago, the city came by to clear it because it was blocked. I will say it was blocked when they did it. And at the time the city did it, they left a huge mound of dirt, debris, rocks, whatever came out of there. They left it right on the side of the ditch. And now it's a pile of dirt that has trees growing out of it. But the erosion continues. And because it goes into the culvert, everything coming down Wood Road goes into the culvert. Everything coming off of Mr. Patterson's property goes into the culvert, out the culvert, and down the full length of the 515 Granville Road property, which is probably about 360 feet to the river. And it used to be a ditch that we could easily step across. Can't do that anymore.
Mr. Chairman, may I add something?
Yes.
Hi, Angela. Thanks for your concern, and I do understand your point of view. And I haven't seen the erosion and the drainage ditch on your property, but I think, perhaps this would be a good time to have a conversation with Casey from the city, and maybe there's some outfall protection measures that can be done on your property, whether it's stone armoring or a plunge pool. I'm not sure at what elevation your culvert is discharging, but maybe there's some things that can be done on your property to help alleviate that situation.
All the way to the river?
I haven't seen it, but
all the way to the river.
Not saying it needs to be done all the way, but maybe just at the headwaters near that outfall to slow the velocity some.
Yeah, that would be great, because I can tell you that there's parts of it right now that have, the water flow has created almost an oxbow with significant erosion under trees.
Right, yeah, I wish I had seen it so I could speak to it a little better, but I'm sure Casey would be willing to work with you and help you out in that regard within the right of way.
I can speak to that as well, that culvert, just because it's going to be similar to Granville, the upper Granville Road anyways, where they're going to try to create on both sides of the culvert an area of pooling to slow the flow of water down. And you know, obviously there's all of Angela's concerns and the concerns of the commission. But with this project, if it's done correctly, and is monitored and maintained, and you know, we keep track of it, I don't see a problem happening with it, or even with the city working with them closely on managing that erosion that is happening on the property across the street, would definitely be helpful and beneficial.
And I still can't, I still believe very strongly that those two projects have to be considered together, and that's your call, but I would argue that it would make sense to consider the culvert repair and this proposal together.
So to that, they were asking to consider them together, or to apply them both at the same time, and the same application. I told them no to that because it's two different types of projects.
Right. Not in the same application. You know, I completely agree with you there, Anna. Definitely not in the same application. But I think what one of them does affects the other. So I completely agree that they're separate proposals. However, I think that considering them separately, you're gonna see things happen. There are gonna be unintended consequences that you might not have noticed.
Exactly.
But I do agree with you. They are separate proposals.
It would have been nice if they could have gone together, because then then they could work together. But unfortunately, that's just something that couldn't happen with the property and the types of projects. I do think it would be wise to work, try to maybe bring DPW into it. I don't know how that would work, but their work definitely impacts Patterson's work, and vice versa, because of how they're going to modify that in that outlet, which is where Patterson's property drains to.
And I just don't want anything that is done to create more damage to 515.
Anna, in the commission, would it behoove us to, you know, talk to the DPW about this, to try to coordinate something?
I think it would be wise if the projects could happen around the same time of each other, just because they're both such big projects. Is essentially what it is, and controlling that flow and the erosion is definitely a priority, while also maintaining the land.
Hearing the neighbor, and I personally think it's a good idea that we not vote on this tonight, but just continue it, and you know, get some feedback from Casey on this after talking to any other interested parties. But there is a lot going on. There's always been a lot going on in Wood Road area.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I guess, is DPW, are they having somebody design an improvement there? I know they said they were going to bring an NOI forward, so they're actually permitting it, but you know.
It's DPW.
Yeah, I'm hearing a situation downstream that we probably need to look at, because we have a city culvert disturbing a private property now. So, you know, we kind of have an issue we need to investigate, but you know, the design or redesign of that culvert likely requires a consultant to look at and come up with appropriate, you know, plunge pool design, things like that, to mitigate velocities. You know, this doesn't appear to me to be like you know, just give something a shot and see what happens. You know, and you know, there is an issue here with the culvert. You know, basically if I'm looking at it, like if we're gonna tell Mr. Patterson he can go forward, I don't think we can tell DPW that they can just unplug the existing culvert. You know what I mean? Like the projects are gonna ultimately stand on their own merits. And hopefully the flooding issue doesn't reoccur here over the drier months of the summer. So there's a little bit of leash here in terms of Mr. Patterson's urgency, but we're also gonna get into a situation if we just keep continuing this where we have to consider it as it's been presented to us. You know, but I do think it's appropriate to wait here and figure out what DPW's plans are anyway. It does seem to be a very valid concern downstream. But I guess we just got to, you know, get back with Casey and figure out what's going on and what their plan is for the city culvert.
Yeah, I will. It's Joe Kettner's their water guy. So I can reach out to him and be like, hey, the commission's gonna need a more solid plan for that one. I had mentioned to them hiring Woodward and Curran as they did for the City View culvert, but it's again, it comes down to budget in the end and funding. But focusing back onto this one and
Well,
not.
would it behoove us to wait on this one till we get some information from DPW? You know, concerning the problem on the other side of the road.
So you have to weigh in on the merits of this application, irregardless of DPW's future work. Does this application meet the standards? I think it does. I think it's approvable. I hear your concerns, and I think there is a lot of other additional concerns in the area. But I would caution to hold off on an approvable project because you're questioning a future project adjacent.
Are we still open to public participation?
Yes.
So if we're still open to public participation, I would argue that Mr. Patterson's efforts to drain his area will continue to cause damage to 515 Granville Road.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
I agree that, you know, logically it makes sense to do this as a, you know, a comprehensive effort with the city. But the reason why we filed this independently, in addition to the reasons Anna mentioned, was also due to timing. So if, you know, if the Conservation Commission deems that the culvert replacement requires an NOI, having a separate consultant then prepare that, I mean, by the time that, you know, we can't guarantee the timing of that. That could come fall time, in which case Mr. Patterson won't have the window during the dry season to get this work done, and his problem just worsens. So we don't want to be at the mercy of the city's timing with a lot of unknowns for his project. And, you know, Mr. Patterson can't be dependent on someone else for his property.
And Mr. Patterson's efforts to drain his property will increase water flow through 515 Granville Road. That's just it. That's what it will do.
As it was to prior conditions.
And Angela, I'm not even sure that that might be the case, because they're proposing to increase the volume of space that the stream has to move in. Right now, it's so congested that creating more space, I think, might allow more flashier or strong flows to have more space. So it might actually benefit you. And I totally hear what you're saying.
So perhaps, you know, and it's hard to say, and I just wanted to reiterate, there are 2 ditches on his property. The one that Ryan addressed, and then there is another ditch that Mr. Patterson created. That's a ditch that's sort of an indentation in his lawn where water streams whenever there's a rainstorm. There's also water in that ditch. So if the commission approves anything, then I would say that ditch is off limits. because there are two ditches. It's part of his lawn. I don't know, Ryan, if you have a picture of, if you can show where it is, but there is another ditch through his lawn. Additionally, Mr. Patterson, over the years, has come forward with requests to build a house on that hill. Building a house on that hill, and it's certainly not part of this proposal, and it would be a future proposal if it happens to that, would make it even worse. So I don't know, it's, my view is, it will increase the water flow, and so we'll just disagree on that.
Well, if you're creating more capacity, essentially you're creating more room for the flow. So I'm not sure I agree with you.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is it is not impeded. It flows very well right now.
That
It is not impeded.
I agree. It still has flow. Yeah.
Yeah. And it has good flow.
For the record on that, looking at the culvert, when I did visit it, you couldn't see from one side to the other, but this was back in, when did I start working? This was back in end of April. You can't see from one side to the other, but that doesn't mean it doesn't flow.
Okay. It seems like then we need to deal with this project and not wait for the city to make a decision on their culvert. Any further discussion from the commission then?
Well, Mr. Chairman, when can we go 2 more weeks on a decision, just 2 more weeks without going against the time? So when do we have to have a decision by legally?
21 days.
You can only hold up a decision if they do not give you the information that you requested, or it doesn't meet the performance standards as listed in the regulations. So if you are saying, look, we need more information, absolutely. But what information specifically?
Otherwise, it's 21 days once it has been proposed.
I guess we don't know, to Karen, we don't know enough about it to know what information we might need.
So what information do
sense.
you think you need, I guess? What are you looking for?
I guess velocity, flow rate, what change in the geometry of the channel will do to velocity, would armoring help it, would putting riprap in that channel help to slow it down at that level, give Mr. Patterson the drainage he wants, but also, although you're not going to reduce the amount of water going through the culvert, you are probably going to reduce the velocity. I think there's a lot of other options. We just don't know. So I don't know if 2 weeks will cause irreparable harm to the applicant. Casey may have other input on this and other ideas on how to handle it that would accommodate Mr. Peterson better, actually, Mr. Patterson. So I guess I don't know what we need.
My question would be the one I asked Angela. Have someone document to us, will this impact other landowners? To me, if we were to give approval to someone to cut down a 100-foot tree, knowing that it's going to fall on the neighbor's garage, come on. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Jim, I'm with you totally. I'm ready to vote that we continue this.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add.
Yes, Ryan.
I would just like to reiterate that, we're not adding impervious, we're not changing the watershed, we're not changing topography. We are restoring flow capacities that existed prior to the threshold date stated in the regulations.
Ryan, you're moving a bunch of water from one spot to another is what you're doing. You're drying out one spot and pushing it somewhere else. Karen, my question would be, show me where that water is going and that it won't negatively impact other property owners.
But that's where the water always went. It's just until recently it's been impeded. We're restoring its prior condition.
Because it's being filled in, right? Over time, it's just slowly not becoming a stream, but becoming a marshy wetland. So you're trying to establish or reestablish the channel.
And Karen, you taught me early on that whether a wetland is is man-made or not, that it's a wetland. To me, that's where I started on this whole conversation. It looks
Right.
to me like we're drying up a wetland.
Not drying up, you're reestablishing it. So think of like sedimentation in a pond. Over time, that the topography or what's the right word?
Bathymetry.
Thank you, of the bottom of the pond changes. It fills in and it goes upward. So they're trying to reestablish the level of that stream as it once was in order to facilitate the flows that it had in the past. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but it just doesn't feel right. I would be more comfortable giving it another 2 weeks of research.
So be
Well-
specific on what information you need from the applicant.
I think Jim requested flow rate as it currently stands and how that would modify.
How would we be measuring flow rate?
Does stream stats say anything on it by chance, or no, because it's unmapped?
man-made. It's man-made, unmapped.
I don't have an answer for you on that one.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Hi, I'm John Liptak. I'm here with my son, Patrick Liptak. He's the current owner of 515 Granville Road. Thank you for hearing all this information. And, you know, I agree with Mr. Murphy and Mr. Sharp that if the board has not seen the erosion on 515 Granville Road, I would beg to differ that you need to see that and how additional flow is going to negatively impact it. I just went out there recently and looked at, you know, in some places it's, you know, 8 feet wide, and you need you got to go hiking to get across it. And it was never like that before. So I think before you approve this, you really got to look at how it's going to impact 515 Granville Road.
Can you define before, like how many years ago?
Well, Angela stated, you know, Jim Liptak lived here for 50 years and used to be able to step across it.
So
You know?
50 years ago, it was smaller.
Well, he's been here 50 years. I don't know
No,
exactly. years.
even 30 years ago, even 20 years ago, even 30, I mean, just when I moved to the house 30 years ago, it was significantly smaller. So, and it's just continued to erode year after year after year after year.
If I may add, Mr. Liptak, has your family taken any measures to reduce erosion? Have you talked with the city about the outfall of that culvert? Or
He just bought the house May 19th.
okay.
But prior to that, over the past years.
It has not been a priority for the city.
Okay.
So from Mr. Patterson's standpoint, he's gone through the effort, hired an engineer, and done the survey work, and is before the commission trying to improve his property. And, you know, if downstream abutters are having similar problems, perhaps they should look into doing work on their own property to alleviate the situation.
The problem's coming from the culvert.
Well, Mr. Patterson could say his problem's coming from his abutter upstream also. Just a chain.
Well, is the council committee going to approve one improvement to impact another and hurt another property?
The thing is, as well, is if you're saying the problem's coming from the culvert, that doesn't have to do with this project.
But
Where's
it
his water
does.
going to go?
It does.
That has to do with the city's project.
The culvert is fed from Mr. Patterson's property.
And it's
He
also fed
is
from
not
road
going,
drainage.
yeah,
the
he's not going up to that culvert line though. He's staying off of city's property there.
So if you were to go look at the culvert tomorrow, it hasn't rained in substantially in days. Now, I haven't been up there recently, but I would tell you, I would wager that there's still quite a bit of water coming through that culvert. Is that right, John? I don't know if you.
Yeah, I was just out there tonight. I was there.
And it hasn't rained for days. So all of that water is coming from Mr. Patterson's property.
I mean, I agree with member Tom saying, you know, this is looked like it's like a wetland that you're trying to dry for him. And the water's going through the existing ditch from 19 whenever to the culvert that's falling apart, and then it's coming out the other side on 515 Granville Road and eroding the property. And, you know, I know you're looking at it as a project that you have to approve because there's nothing wrong with it, but how do you not look at what happens on the other side of the culvert from the water he's pushing there? Has anybody from the commission looked at the other side?
I have, very familiar. A
I
lot of
have also
erosion.
looked at the other side.
And
Karen,
we have to, if
how
I
far
may,
down did you go? How far down on the other side did you look?
to the river. And I
You walked
understand
down
you
the,
have-
you walked
yes.
down the, okay. When did you
Yes.
do that?
Oh, I couldn't tell you a
Recently?
date. I couldn't tell you a date, but it's been within the last 15 years. So I do know that you have issues down there.
Right.
But and I forget who said it recently or earlier, but we have to take issues parcel by parcel. So Mr. Patterson's issue, we have to decide what's best for his parcel in that it will not impact other people's property. And then you have an issue with your property. Okay, we can address that separately. But that's the way the regulations work. We have to ensure that what he does doesn't impact your property. And I believe that what he's proposing will in fact help the flooding that's in the area because it will create more volume of space for that flashy waters that come and go.
I agree with Karen on that one as well.
Thank you. And the erosion on your property can be addressed through different methods. And I agree there is issues, and the culvert is another issue, but we have to take them individually.
So you're going to increase his flow to increase our erosion, and that's okay?
We're
Increasing-
allowing him to increase the size of his drainage ditch to allow more
Increasing flow.
storage of water. We're not allowing him to increase the flow. By making the ditch deeper, you're increasing the volume.
So you're sure it's not going to increase the flow?
It should not increase the flow because we're not enhancing the size widthwise to a narrower point. The velocity should not change. It's going to hold the same amount of water,
More.
just at a deeper volume.
Right.
Then why is he doing it, Anna? Why does he want to do it if it's not going to drain his backyard?
I think these
Because
questions
it's
should be
filling
directed.
in. It's filling in right now. This is a sedimentation issue. You have a channel that conveys water over time that is now filling in, that is not able to convey the same amount of volume of space. So you're getting erosion. It makes sense. So by reestablishing the stream, giving it more volume of space, you're going to allow it to have more volume of space for that flashy water, and you're going to have less erosion. So his project will actually improve the flooding in the area, if done right.
What do they call that? Counterintuitive?
Karen, if I follow that logic through, then you just said it will allow more space. You just said to increase the flow. Is that what you said?
Increase volume
We're
during
increasing-
flashy storms. You have a very
Okay.
flashy storm.
Right. So you'll increase volume, which,
No, we're
If-
increasing the flow capacity. We're
Right.
so if you
restoring the flow.
increase
Thank you,
the
Brian.
flow, if you increase the flow capacity, that would seem to me, that would increase the flow across the property next door. And I can't get my head around that. So,
So it's
So-
the same amount of water. What's happening is the stream, as Karen said, is being infilled with vegetation and leaves. So think of it as like it's detaining it and then metering it out. And you're getting a more constant duration of flow for a longer period of time as to a peak attenuation after a storm event. So you're actually getting more water for a longer period of time because it's impounded and clogged.
All right. All right, I think we've talked both, the sides of this issue quite a bit. What's the, what's the wishes of the commission?
Motion to continue until we're provided further information about velocity and flow, similar to what Jim expounded upon.
I don't know how we. we're
Yeah,
measuring
there's
that.
there's
I-
no way to measure that, Tom, because it's an unmarked stream.
That's not true. They could drop a hydrocad point on that culvert and
Yeah.
substantiate with the drainage area before and after the modifications. I do generally agree here that we'd likely see a reduction in peak flow because the volume of that channel upstream is going to be increased. But by what amount, I'm unsure. It doesn't appear to be a lot of volume that's being removed. It's more that vegetation that's being removed. So, if that were to, I believe, Ryan, you talked about there's going to be check dams in there, right?
Correct. During,
that would
during and after
replicate-
construction. Yep.
That would replicate permanent ones, right? After construction. So that would replicate, what the vegetation is doing now. But I think if you wanted to request a, similar like you would in a stormwater application, a pre and a post at the culvert inlet, you could substantiate this discussion about peak flow going down. And then you would have something to hang your hat on. And I don't think that would be an outlandish request. But at least that's a specific request.
Mhm. So that's something you would like to get information to support a continuance?
I leave it to Tom and Jim.
How would we be showing a pre versus post of skimming 6 inches of vegetation out of the stream?
You got one drainage area and you're telling me you're gonna have more volume after, so you basically have created a detention basin, right? I mean, that's what you're proposing to us, is it not?
Detention basin?
Detention aspect of it, but I don't know if a basin. Yeah.
It's
I
not a
hear you.
detention basin, it's not a
I hear you,
stormwater feature,
Alex.
but it's the same principle, Ryan. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, is it could be modeled very similar to how stormwater is modeled. And then you could say with a very objective, straight face that, look, peak flow went down by X, which is what's being said here and which I generally agree with. So I'm not asking for this, but I am disputing this discussion of there's no way to prove it.
I did want to make a comment, though, in looking at the plan and some knowledge of the area, the contribution of the water from the higher level as it flows down will probably stay the same, if that's my understanding. You're not changing the slopes. So the contributing water will stay the same. You're not changing the location of the drainage ditch, to the best of my knowledge. You're just changing the horizontal configuration. Am I stating that correctly, Ryan?
Horizontal configuration stays the same. We're just removing the sediment and the obstructing vegetation from within.
Are you keeping the floor dimensions the same as they reach the wall dimensions?
The substrate or the floor would be dug out approximately 6 inches deep where needed.
Okay, so how wide is the base of this drainage ditch right now?
On average, I calculate it to be about 6 feet.
6 feet, okay. So you're gonna have, and then you've got side walls, or you've got some kind of slope or bank, right?
It varies. In some spots, it's, on the downhill side, it's a foot. Some spots, it's only a few inches where it overspills into the yard.
Okay, all right. Well, you're gonna maintain the 6 inch, the 6 foot wide floor? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so once again, the contribution of the water flowing down to it will remain constant, no different than it is now, unless things change, above it. I'm just trying to get an understanding of this a little bit more. So is my understanding correct on that?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay.
So
All right.
Ryan, and there is absolutely no intention to do any work on that other ditch that
No.
runs across the back of the lawn? That
No,
was,
That's just a low point within the.
that was put in there. It was added. It was a low point that was added to the lawn that helped drain it. And that also drains into the ditch. So there's absolutely no intent to
No.
modify that. Is that what you're
No.
saying?
That's correct. There's no plans to change that.
All right, and we need to get to other projects here. You had okay, who's got their hand up? Is that Mr. Liptak? Can't hear you.
Yeah, it's in here. I'll take it down.
Okay, sorry. And there's another one?
Hi, sorry to interrupt you and me again. It's Oscar. I was just have a few words, and that's all.
About this project?
Yeah, that's the 240 Roosevelt Road, because I forgot to tell you. I sent a message to Karen because I
Oh,
forgot
sorry,
to tell.
Oscar, we're talking about a different project right now. We'll have to wait. Sorry.
Can I wait to the end?
We're almost to your next project. Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll wait.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
All right. Okay. Now, Tom, you wanted to make a motion?
I do. I would like to continue this for until our next meeting.
And at least, what is your stated purpose for continuing it?
I would focus on what I've heard from Jim and what I've heard from Alex, that we need to have a better understanding of the flow and velocity that will result from digging out and you don't call it enlarging, but I do, enlarging this. And you're driving me nuts when you call it a stream. I want to call it a stream now too. But I can't say all those wonderful things that the engineers have said and that smarter people have said, but it just is wrong. It just is totally wrong. But I understand that the motion has to be specific. So I would push it back into velocity and flow.
All right. Do we have a second?
Document. Thank you.
Do we have a
Mr. Chair,
second?
I don't know if we can really discuss right now.
Well, we need a second first for the discussion.
I'll second it.
Okay, now discussion.
I know I was discussing with Ryan like a way that this could be looked at, but just to be clear from a modeling perspective, if you increase the volume of a swale and the drainage area doesn't change and the slope doesn't change, the peak flow rate's going to go down. So that is going to be the end result of that exercise. I want to make that clear because I think I left Tom hanging. I can tell you that when you set the model up and run it, you're going to see a decrease in peak flow rate after the project is completed. Which is what Karen was saying and Anna was agreeing with prior.
Yeah, I agree with what Alex is saying, and I don't feel like I need to see any of that information.
That
So
would be,
essentially, that's a metering process. Alex?
If all inputs remain the same, Jim, except that you've got a greater capacity, then the amount of water going out is going to be metered, yes.
So
By that additional capacity.
It's going to slow it down, stabilize it.
I would say it may not be like a noticeable amount that it slows it down because we're not talking about a huge volume, but it is like, it's not going to increase that peak flow rate.
Right. I
Okay.
agree.
And I do think while I'm saying this, that the city has a big problem they need to address for these folks on that other property. That to me become completely evident through this discussion that the lip tax property, that the city needs to design properly this next project to resolve an issue. But I don't believe we're making that issue worse. I'm firmly in that camp now. So with that said, I mean, I wanted to make that clear in discussion here to Tom and others.
Thank you, Alex. Alex, how do I better say this? How do I better make this motion? You've got the mind. I don't.
I'm basically agreeing with everybody here that it doesn't really need to be continued if we've looked at it, because I don't think we are making the downstream impacts worse.
Wow. Okay.
Good. Jim seems to want some documentation to support Alex's eloquent explanation. Okay. Any further discussion before we vote on the motion to continue?
I feel comfortable, more comfortable now after listening to Alex. And thank you, Alex. But I also feel that yes, there should be some documentation of this. And I do feel, even though we're looking at this project independently, it does affect other people. And since the city is a direct abutter of the recipient of the water before it goes across the street, and I think that the city engineer has to be have some discussion with us and say, what are the plans to resolve this ultimately?
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes.
Do we need to wait for DEP comments on the project?
Yes.
Okay. Prior to approval.
Yes. So
We need to wait
you
for-
cannot issue a permit without a DEP file number.
So we
Has to be
have
continued anyways, yeah.
a whole 2 more weeks anyways.
Come on.
So there you go, Anna.
Sorry to drag you guys out in your conversation of but I got nothing from DEP, so
All right,
There
thanks.
you go.
Well,
there's
that-
your
that-
reason to continue.
That answers our
We're having a
question.
good time, Anna.
I've been enjoying listening to you guys try to come up with a reason to continue. There's your reason.
It's
All
only
right.
9:10. Come on.
It's been a very interesting discussion.
Yes,
Karen,
it
if
was
you
a
were to-
discussion that needed to happen because it does seem like there is confusion as to what the project is entailing and increasing the size. Does it increase the flow? Does it do this? Does it do that? So the conversation was beneficial to everybody.
Karen, Anna, if you were to go out and delineate this, or Ryan, if you were to go out and delineate this, would you not call this a wetland? Would you not call this a resource? I don't care that it's man-made. Is it now a resource area?
Yes, and we.
It is a
are
bordering
calling
vegetated
that-
wetland.
yeah.
Well,
It is being submitted as that.
and isn't it kind of wrong to clean up a resource area?
So they're not removing the water. And I think this is where the confusion is happening, is there's the basin, the ditch that currently exists. And on top of the bottom of the ditch is this layer of sediment and plant matter and debris that has built up. And that's what they want to remove. They're not talking about like deepening, so to speak, the ditch and making it deeper in like a height matter or depth matter. It's removing that layer of debris that's sitting on top of the bottom.
Do you have any
what-
pictures, Anna? Because it would really
No.
help to see. Yeah. It's not a street.
You have the city cell phone, Carrie.
Yeah, and it doesn't charge. So yeah.
It doesn't do anything. It's broken. I'm fixing that. No worries.
Mr. Chairman, we got to wait for DEP comment, and
Right.
I don't know if we're also asking for any proof of the peak flow, even though I don't personally need it, but we should move on.
All right. All right, Tom, you want to amend your or withdraw your motion?
No, actually, I'd like to make a motion that we require that this property be delineated. I
It has
think
been
that
delineated.
It
I would
is
like
delineated.
someone to show me that this is not a resource area. What other creek stream would we go start plowing up and changing? We would, I mean, that's like
It
total
is
opposite of what we
delineated.
do.
It is
It's delineated and it's being submitted to us as a bordering vegetated wetland.
I would also claim they're improving the vegetation since they're removing invasives and then going to seed with natives. So it's an improvement.
Right.
If we asked an independent environmental guy or girl to come in, and would they not tell us that this is a wetland?
It is a wetland.
It is
And
delineated as a wetland.
should we not alter a wetland?
under
People
this
submit
condition, you
permits to
can.
us. Yes, people submit permits to us in order to do work which alters a wetland. This is work which alters a wetland that is being submitted to us that follows regulations and guidelines put into place by Westfield and by the Mass DEP. And it is being submitted as a bordering vegetated wetland. The commission has accepted it as a bordering vegetated wetland. If you have someone come out here and delineate it, they're going to give you exactly the same map that you're looking at right now. I can tell you that, having been on the site, having been on the property. It was actually Karen and myself who pointed out to Ryan about this upland section, and if there should be a redelineation. So this looked totally different before we got this map.
All right, perhaps I should be using the word stream. Would they tell me that this is not a drainage, this is no longer a drainage ditch for 40, 50 years? This has now been a stream. Would we ever put a shovel into a stream?
For removal
would argue-
of harmful vegetation?
I'm
Tom,
sorry.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt? Tom, I think it would be really beneficial for you to take a look at the stream. You really would. I hear what you're saying, but you have to see it in what they're trying to do. If you saw it, I think you would understand.
All right, there's a motion on to continue.
I'll
All
make
in
a motion.
favor?
to continue, yes.
Tom,
Wait, I need clarification. What is the motion for? So I can write it down.
to continue.
Okay, who made the motion?
Tom,
I'll
But
make
I
the
thought-
motion based on the fact that we have not heard from DEP.
Thank
Can't
you.
close anyways, yeah.
all right. And who seconded it?
I seconded it.
Okay, thank you. All right, all in favor? Lauren,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Bob. Bob,
I'm recused.
I'm
Mr.
sorry, sorry. It's been a while. Okay, Alex,
Yes.
okay, who's left? Jim?
Yeah, I already said yes.
Okay, I
I'll
said
vote-
yes,
I'll
thank
vote
you.
yes, David.
All right, let's move on.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. See you next time.
Okay, Ryan,
Bye,
thank you.
Ryan, thank you.
All right, item 5, enforcement, 33 Castle Hill Road. Continue from 5:10. Again,
It looks great. I
Yes,
recommend
it-
closing it.
we're out looking at the site. It's getting vegetated very nicely. And there's a recommendation to close out the enforcement order.
So
do you have a mo-
moved.
Do you have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
I'll second, Tom.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Lauren,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jim. Oh, Jim's gone. Alex,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Okay, I'll vote yes as well. All right, thank you. Item B, 0 Bayberry Lane. Again,
They requested an extension. I have a reason why.
well-
They haven't had Brian hasn't had the opportunity to redelineate the site. I don't know if Sergey is still here, but he was wondering as to if he could remove the logs from his property that have been sitting there for some time now, or if we were going to have him keep them there for now.
I don't see any problem in removing them.
Unless, again, we think it's a resource area. Do we?
This
Well,
is a
the
stack of
trees, the
logs.
trees are already down. It's a stack of logs from the trees that were torn down.
Okay, no, I understand.
All right. So, all right, so
But yes, they asked for a continuance until it is delineated until the 28th meeting.
well, do you want a motion to have them remove those logs?
Yes, please.
Okay. Please have entertain a motion to allow them to remove the stack of logs on the property.
So moved.
You have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, Lauren,
Yes.
Jim?
Yeah.
Bob,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Thank you. Okay, item C, 0 Bayberry Lane.
We gotta-
We need a
we gotta-
motion to continue.
We got to continue it.
I'm
to
sorry. All right, do you have a motion to continue?
Do we know till when?
28th.
28th.
I'll give you the motion. We continue this to
All
June
right, do you have a
28th.
second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor? Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Thank you. Okay, item C, Bayberry Lane again. This is the property just up the street. Again, continued from 524.
They would like to continue because they will be filing a notice of intent for the July 12th meeting.
Okay. So entertain a motion to continue to July 12th.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Lauren,
Yes.
Jim,
Yeah.
Tom,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and Alex.
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Thank you. All right, item D, 300 Union Street. Again, continued from 524. And there was a site visit on the 8th of June. I think Ryan's involved with this one.
Yeah, and Ryan is no longer here.
Okay.
He didn't request a continuance, but maybe he forgot about it.
Okay.
So,
And they're waiting for a plan, correct?
correct.
Okay. So entertain a motion to continue to June 28th.
I'll give you that motion and just ask Anna to check in with Ryan on this one.
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Jim,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Tom, you've disappeared. I can't find you. I'll vote yes. Okay, item E, 240 Russellville Road. Again, continue from 524.
I issued an enforcement to Angel Nuella, who is the property owner, and he did receive it on June 7th via certified mail, and he should be held responsible for restoring the site to previous conditions prior to construction outside the permanent limit of work. I know that the excavator was removed from the site only because we were literally driving by as it happened.
Okay.
I know Oscar is here to speak on it.
Yeah, hi. I sent a message. I don't know how to read in English too much, but can you read it for me? I sent to Carol, and you will see the message because the permit will work. And a message say because it was the engineer he trying to find out, and this the permit that will work is only like construction outside, like garage or something like that, not septic.
Yes, you sent it to me, and your septic
Can
system
you
is
read it
illegal
that for-
because it
can you
is.
read
I don't
that
have
for
a
me, please?
letter. I just have an email from Mike from weeks
read
ago
that?
at this point. Yeah, I can find it. It was basically the same thing of
I sent to
saying,
Carol also.
Oscar, please.
Yes.
It was the same conversation of, hey, you know, it should only apply to building and it should not apply to the construction of the septic system. However, speaking with the law department, the permanent limit of work applies to any form of construction, which includes a septic system, because a septic system is a physical unit, which is it's a form of construction. So you unfortunately cannot build outside of that permanent limit of work because it is once again illegal.
All right.
I don't know. Because I don't know if you can read that he sent it to me. I forgot to say that's why I come back because it say it's not wherever he say it's not recorded because we're trying to find the city is not recording those things. You know what he said. So
I sent him the linked copies of the sale to let me see. Find the right email. There's a lot. It's not popping up because it was sent to the secretary. I did send them to him. I sent him the legal deed. I sent him the legal deed of sale to Angel, and it is clearly stated on the last page. I even highlighted it for him like he did for me on the map. That it clearly states that it is subject to the restrictions from the enforcement order issued in 2014, one of those years. It is clearly there, it's clearly deed reported. You can even look it up on the Hampton County website for the Registry of Deeds. You can come to City Hall and you can see it signed, stamped, dated with the site plans as well. It's all there.
Okay. So the site needs to be put back to where it was before.
Okay. Just, because I'm missing that, just wanna be clear, because he sent me that to me and,
Oscar, is your email the one that was submitted on your application?
yeah, Nola.
Okay, yep, I will send them directly to you instead of sending them to Mike, okay?
Okay,
So you
Thank
can
you.
have them for your record.
okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, bye-bye.
But
Hey, Anna, you mentioned earlier tonight that if there was an application on file that the real estate could not change hands. Is that what you said?
That is this application. So because
So my
there's
question
a
is, yeah.
permit,
So I heard you correctly. So my question is, if we have an enforcement order, does the same apply?
it runs with the land.
I'm sorry?
So the enforcement order runs with the land. So whoever the property owner is, they are responsible for the enforcement order, whether
I
it
understand
changes or
that. Can the property change hands if there is an enforcement order in effect?
Yes.
That's my question for the legal team.
I believe so.
Yeah, I will double check, but the answer is yes. The only reason the property cannot change hands is if there is an outstanding permit that has not been closed. An enforcement order doesn't fall under that.
all right, thank you.
So if the applicant requests something to be closed, can we deny that request?
No.
If there's an enforcement, if he's, I'm.
It's two separate items. One's the permit and one is the enforcement, two totally separate things.
No,
So you
I
have to think of them that way. They're not tied together in that sense.
Tom,
So
if
the
he wants to
enforcement would
withdraw
remain
without
open.
prejudice, we can't say no. The
Yeah.
applicant can pull their application at any point.
Correct.
That wouldn't quite be fair, would it? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. So we'll just need to continue the enforcement until it gets finished, Anna?
I guess so. I can try. I don't know if Oscar, have you heard from Angel at all? Because he would be the one to restore the property.
Well, I think we need to keep it open in case somebody else purchases it.
Yeah, I think, because I would like you to send me everything like you say you have it for me, because I would like to see it, because otherwise, make me confused. I will try to find out that too,
No worries. I will get it to you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and then, yeah.
If
Right,
I may
so-
just take 5 seconds, we had that previous application where they had the nitrogen system. I'm not sure if that would be applicable in your Oscar's property and not have to do that weekly drain of the system. I'm just throwing that out there, that there are other alternatives to the tight tank system. So maybe look into that. That's all.
Okay, all right, so let's keep this open. So need a motion to continue the enforcement order.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
All right, do you have a second?
A second.
All right, all in favor, Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Thank you. Item F, 291 Loomis Street. Clear cutting trees without a permit, potentially in the 200-foot riverbank area. Again, continue from 524. I don't know, Mr. Squirrey was here. There he is.
They're still here.
All right, thank you. Anna, you want to present what you've seen out there?
Yeah, so essentially, The trees had rotted out from a culvert that was there in DPW. They brought it from the bottom up, so they were hollow and proposed a hazard to the property owner. Those trees are in the front half of the property, which fall outside of our jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction within the 200 riverfront area is on the back end of the property, so on the back slope behind the house. Aside from that, the property does slope down on the trying to orientate myself on the map. Like on the northeastern side of the property, there is a slope there, again, outside our jurisdiction. So it's just what's going on in the back half of the property, really. But I issued the violation letter so that we could touch base with them and see what was going on.
So the tree cutting is outside of our jurisdiction?
A majority of it, yes.
Okay, it's at least outside of the 100?
The 200.
It's outside of 200?
Yes, it's a riverfront area. So a
Okay.
majority of it is outside of the 200-foot area, but there is still some of it which is inside the 200-foot area.
But it's outside the 100?
Yes, but it's riverfront, so it's 200.
I know.
Yes.
But it's outside 100 feet of the river?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So are there any concerns for us then?
The only concern that I had was we just really wanted to know what was going on. It's not an official enforcement. There is concern of the slope on the back of the property eroding, so I don't know if there. I'm knocking stuff over. I don't know if there is. I don't know if there was a plan for replanting on the backside of the property to prevent that erosion. I know myself and Steve had talked about the stumping in front of the property and how he was going to replant it with native vegetation so that that part doesn't erode away. So, and he was aware of the 100-foot buffer zone, just not of the 200.
All right, thank you. Okay, welcome, Steve. It's been a long wait for you.
Yes.
Thanks for hanging out.
Yes. We bought this house 10 years ago. I bought it actually because, as Anna could contest, you couldn't see the house from the road. I was very disappointed. I had to cut the trees because now when you drive by, everybody could stare at my house. So that was problem number one. Also, I don't want to beat on the culvert issue, but that seems to be a part of my problem because there's a culvert across the street that just dumps into my yard, which caused some of the trees to erode, and it also took out my telephone pole that feeds my house by eroding. I've been trying to call DPW repeatedly since Anna's been here, and nobody's returned my calls or answered it. I tried to call Joe Katner, I think is his name. I also reached out to Casey because I know Casey because I used to plow for DPW, and I don't want to cause any problems, but nobody's called me back because that's just going to continue to happen and destroy my property.
It's okay. I can't even get them to call me back sometimes.
That's kind of what I was informed by somebody else today.
Well, Anna, you seem to have some.
But Steve,
protection there, so-
you did leave messages with the Conservation Commission. Is that what you're saying?
I
After
called
DPW.
Joe Katner after Anna was out here because Anna
Yeah.
came out here. I explained everything she did. I did. She blocked it and said I was okay. Told me to come to this meeting, which I did. And then she told me I could reach out to DPW, to Joe Katner. She told me exactly who to call, which I did. Like, I know a couple people at the DPW. I called and nobody is returning my calls, which is irritating. Because I want to grow grass there and like put vegetation back so I have no issues, but it's going to continue to erode if it's not taken care of. I grew up in the north side of town. I lived on Sherwood Ave. All the culverts were actually piped out to the brooks. So I don't know why this one is. But, I think it was probably originally put in before the house was built and it's just been draining there and nobody noticed till I cut the trees out and I found the problem. Somebody from the DPW must know it's there because it's colored with orange spray paint, as Anna saw. So I have, like, she came out here, if you guys want to come look, but thing is I'm going to clean up the yard and all that, but I'm concerned about future with the drainage of the culvert right into my yard.
Well, Anna, you can put that on the list for your discussions with DPW.
We
Okay.
can take a look.
Oh,
we can go out and take a look too and see
Yeah.
what we can
Yeah.
help them.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think this needs to be an official enforcement order just because the area of impact is so small and so limited. But aside from that, Steve was very receptive to listening and understanding and also showing us the property. So it seems like something that can be handled outside of an enforcement.
All right. So there's nothing that we need to do officially then.
I just have one question then, because I had this cease and desist order. Can I get my guy back here to clean up my mess?
Yeah, he
Oh.
does have all the lumber just sitting there, so that'd be the only question.
All right, so we do need a motion to, I guess, finish the cease and desist order, if that's the wish of the commission. Do we have a motion?
If I can offer, Anna and I will go out this week and go, you can do this, but you can't do that, and kind of give them some guidance.
Okay,
Okay,
I'll make the motion that we close the enforcement order.
well, it's a cease and desist. It's not
right,
really
just a letter.
official.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second,
All right, all in favor, Jim,
yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Thank you. Item G, 33 First Street. Non-compliance with an order of conditions. So there have been some addressing of the potential violations. Anna?
Yes, so it came to me from an anonymous call to the office that was discussing a tree that was in the property and has been sitting there for a while. That was taken out in compliance with the order of conditions. So there was just questions as to why it was there. We issued the enforcement order at the last meeting, having not heard from them due to certified mail having its own wonderful problems. And Ms. Peretti reached out to me. We discussed the conditions which you have listed in front of you. The only question still remaining is that of the bond. And then I do recommend that we should schedule a site visit with Ms. Peretti and the commission members. Aside from that, the enforcement order, you had required cease and desist, which the house is already built, so there really is no cease and desist. And to hire a consultant to review for as-built.
Okay. But the bond never was given, right?
Correct,
So she can't get one back for a certificate of compliance.
correct,
Okay, so we're stuck then, aren't we?
yes.
So she may very well have to convey a bond to complete the cycle, let the city accept it.
Right.
And through the certificate of compliance, the bond can be returned.
Right.
So it was, sorry if I can cut in, it was oversight on my part. I was switching jobs and had just a lot of pans on the fire at once. I'd be happy to pay the bond. I think it was just overlooked in the whole process on my end. So I do apologize for that. I'd be happy to present it. I'm off work on Thursday, so I can bring it over then. If anybody's available Thursday for a site meeting, I'd be happy to have everybody, or whenever everybody's available.
Yeah, once we get the bond and we get an as-built plan, then we can close it out and you get your money back.
So I wasn't looking for compliance. I'm here tonight because I was reported for non-compliance. So I was here to make sure that I was addressing all the issues. I have this letter with multiple line items. I don't know if between my communications with Anna, they've been addressed already, or if there's more that needs to be discussed. I just wanted to make sure all the concerns were addressed. I've sent her some images. I've put up some additional silt fencing for temporary before I get the grass planting in, which I also was ordering supplies to do myself, but put a hold on because I didn't know if the cease and desist would have a problem with me doing that as well. So I'm just here to figure out what I can do to finish and become compliant.
Well, it seems like everything has been addressed except for the bond.
Okay, so I'd be happy to address that this week.
Okay, so just get in contact with Anna at the office and then.
The bond and the as-built. And the as-built, right?
Well, she doesn't want a certificate right now.
Okay, well, that is required, yes.
Right.
The as-built was required as part of your enforcement order. It's also required for the certificate of compliance as well. So
yeah, I just wanted Jeanette to be clear on that.
Okay, so what is an as-built and how would I get one? I guess would be my next question, because I'm sure it's written that I need one, but I'm not clear on the steps to go towards that.
If I may. So an as-built just shows what exists today as opposed to what was approved under the order of conditions. So you're trying to show you complied with what was permitted. If you had to move things, change things, that's fine. You just need to recognize that and call it out.
And who would I get in touch to do that work for me? Do you guys recommend anybody? Does anybody in the
We
council? do
cannot
it?
recommend, it would be an environmental consultant that you would hire.
Okay, and so I like Google environmental consultant and try and find somebody.
Yeah, we
I
can't
can-
recommend.
We
But
have
the-
we have a list that I can send you, but aside from that, we cannot specifically recommend a person.
A list would be great. I just feel better
Yes.
with a list from you guys versus randomly trying to go
Right.
down the rabbit hole of Google. So
Okay,
that's appreciated.
all right, great. Well, thank you.
I do have a question, being that the trees were reported for, what is the verbiage? Stockpiling of tree stumps and soil. That's simply an area of trees taken down that I plan to cut up for firewood and haven't leveled out yet. Is there any issue with that so that I'm just aware? I wasn't aware that storing like trees was a problem until it was reported as an issue, and nobody, I live really close to like 3 people and nobody said anything. So I'm just curious if this is something I need to be aware of in future, or if it's just kind of somebody had a problem with how my front yard looks, which it's a dirt pit right now. So I'm
possible.
surprised.
When you go for your certificate of compliance, just make note of that in your request and they will address it at that time.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes, I think our
Okay.
issue is we just need to know why it was still there, you know?
The house literally got finished less than 30 days ago. That's why
Okay.
it's still there. There's still some stuff to be cleaned up in the yard. It's literally a dirt pit. So
All right, so Anna, is there an official enforcement on this property?
There is.
Do you want to remove it or continue it? Or wait
If
till
the
they get the bond?
commission, I was gonna say, if the commission is comfortable closing the enforcement prior to filing of the bond, you can. Otherwise, I would say continue until the bond is filed. And we
I would
have
agree.
record that it is
I
filed.
would agree with Anna. Keep it
Okay,
open.
thank you. All right, then entertain a motion to continue the enforcement.
being,
Yes.
question, sorry, before you guys close it on me, being that it's being continued and it's a cease and desist, is this just, we're gonna revisit it at the next meeting once I pay the bond? Like, can I plant my grass? That's the question, I guess. Like, and clean up the stumps and that kind of stuff, or do I still have a cease and desist and can't do that yard work?
Unless the cease and desist specifically says you cannot do it, you can do it.
Just cease and desist all work on property except what is allowed under the order. So I guess I can plant grass and do my grading and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Correct. I'm really glad I put that line in there.
I'm just being clear. I didn't realize how your front yard is gonna be full, so I'm
It's
trying to
fine.
be
For a
very
second,
clear.
I thought I didn't put that line in there. And I was
No,
like,
you're good, Anna. You're good.
Okay, thank you. Who made the motion?
I don't think there was one.
Oh, the motion to continue the enforcement.
I'll make that motion.
All right, you have a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? See none. All in favor, Jim?
Yeah.
Bob,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Tom?
Yeah.
And I'll vote yes as well. Okay. What's next? Fowler Road?
39, oh yeah, Fowlerwood, sorry, I forgot I changed it out of order.
Yes, you did.
Really quick. So Fowler Road was, the guy's name is Will Olson, yeah. He reached out to me, no construction was done on the property, even though they had an NOI. He was just looking to get the bond released to him. So we have to, I would recommend issuing a COC with, it's like
I'm
number
sorry, I'm in
5.
the wrong place. Forget
you?
that. We should be at A, 39. Peacock
39, okay,
Point Road,
that's, I was
sorry.
confused. It's
No.
fine, it's late, we'll blame it on the time.
Yeah. Okay, the Masters.
They're in compliance with everything of their order of conditions. The erosion, at the last meeting, we determined that since the slope no longer exists, they don't need a substitution for vegetation. The erosion controls, we agreed that they could remove them from the site, and then they had to submit as-built plans and a letter stating how it was built to the proposed plans. I do have those as-built, and I do have the letter stating so. It was the fact that in the original plans, the bricks that they were using to build the retention wall, they were unavailable, so they switched the type of bricks used, and that led to there being no slope.
Okay.
So I recommend issuing the COC with the continuing conditions of 30, 32, 33, and 68.
And
Okay, the motion.
what are 30, 32, 33, 68? What are they?
like the standard conditions that are always continued. Hold on, I will pull it up. Give me a second. A million at one tab.
I'm not sure we've done this before.
You do, Tom, but you call them out.
Oh,
All right, so they've submitted everything necessary for the certificate of compliance?
Yes.
All right. Then entertain a motion to approve issuing of the certificate of compliance.
I'll make a motion, we issue the certificate of compliance. And did we bond this?
We did.
Yes, and return the bond.
All right, do you have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
what continuing, once we issue the CFC,
Can we have that?
what future concerns do we have? What is
None.
30, 32, 33, 68?
Well, Anna looks it up. You want to just discuss it under 8A when we get there so we can keep moving?
Either that or just drop that from the, I never remember doing this in the past.
Tom, we have, but I guess in a slightly different format, or they're more or less incorporated into the process.
Okay, so I will give it to you right now. 30 is any material placed in any resource area without authorization is to be removed immediately. What was it? 33, is that what I said? No, 32 and 33. 32 is the order authorizes only the activity describes on the approved plans and approved documents referenced in the order. No future work of any time can be done. 33 was any changes made unless otherwise specified, which alter the area must be reported if inquired by the commission, which maybe I wrote that wrong and it was supposed to be a different one. And then 38 is unless another limit of work line has been noted on the plans and approved by the commission, the geotextile / sedimentation filtration barrier shall constitute a limit of work.
All right, so what's,
Sorry, not 38, 68. I wrote it wrong. 68 would be the stabilization and maintenance of the areas.
all right, but they've satisfied everything as far as the
Yes.
order conditions.
Yes,
All
So
right,
that stuff has already been done, right?
but it's
Stabilization.
ongoing. So like they're allowed to continue to maintain the area, which would allow stabilization. They have the ability to, they can't do any more work that's outstated and no future work can happen. And then any sediment shall no longer remain on the site here and after. And it should be removed immediately.
okay, thank you. All right, so is there a motion? I forgot. To issue the certificate of compliance.
I made the motion or
That's right.
second
And I
or
seconded
something
it.
or other.
And it was seconded. All right.
Yeah.
Any further
Yes.
discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Jim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Tom. I'll vote
Yes.
yes as well. Okay, item B, 109 North Road. A request, certificate of compliance.
Okay, this one's my fault because there's been a communication error because Thursday was wild and I mixed up my times because of extenuating circumstances. The contractor is insistent that the mulch is a better idea than soil and grass, so he would like a site visit. I scheduled one for Friday at 2 p.m. just so I can review it with him to be like, hey, it's already eroding. So continuance is recommended.
And I'll
Yeah.
go with her. So,
All
I'll
right,
make
so
a
motion
motion.
to continue to 6,
Yeah, I got you. I'm there. Motion to continue.
to 6/28.
28.
Okay. Do you have a second?
Second.
Yes, second.
Okay, all in favor, Jim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Okay, item C.
Do you vote yes, David?
Yes,
Did you vote?
I voted yes.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, Fowler Road, Anna.
Yeah, so this was, I
Wait,
meant to put this,
Springfield Road, 155?
Fowler.
I meant to put Fowler Road as D and Springfield Road as C.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So we'll do Springfield Road because I mixed them up by accident.
Okay,
if that
155
is-
Springfield Road.
That is okay. Your copy got mixed up. The copy that is out in public
No
is
problem.
listed this way.
Okay,
So 155 Springfield Road, a very old NOI from 1997 that expired in 2016. No work was ever done. Recommended issuing the COC. And I didn't finish my sentence there. I don't even know what I was
Easy.
typing.
Easy one.
Yeah.
It's literally a dirt lot. There's nothing there.
but I guess, can you issue a
Does-
COC if
does-
nothing's been done?
Yes,
Does
it is
does anyone need
under.
to hear from me?
Yes.
Okay,
So I can specifically tell you what it is. It's number 5. I know that,
So you just issue a COC saying nothing was ever done,
pretty much.
closed out. That's it.
okay. All right, great. So entertain a motion to issue the COC for 155 Springfield Road.
With the understanding that the bond is going to be released.
Probably wasn't any bond,
There was a bond back then. It's from,
but they probably didn't submit it. They didn't do anything.
yeah, they didn't do anything.
1997, yeah.
1997.
All right, do you have a second?
Second that.
Who,
I don't know if you got the motion, Mr.
yeah, who
Chair.
made the motion? Okay,
I'll
Jim,
give you
make
the,
the motion.
I'll give you the motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and Jim seconded the motion. Thank you.
Perfect.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Jim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
and Tom.
Yes.
Okay, now Fowler Road.
Now Fowler Road, same story. Permit issued, permit expired, no construction was done, called to get the bond released to him. Recommend issuing the COC with the release of the bond.
All right, entertain a motion to that effect.
So move.
You have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor, Jim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Thank you.
Hey, Anna, out of curiosity, when did Mr. Olson,
File
file?
2019.
Okay, all right. Okay,
I
so,
think.
okay, not that long ago. Okay.
No. It was very recent, just, him and his wife.
I just
split and-
saw 0 Fowler Row. Wow, there's.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
they just never
Okay.
built the house.
Item 7, motion to approve the minutes of May 24th.
Yeah, I read the minutes. They looked good. I'll make that motion.
All right, you have a second?
Yep, I'll second it.
All right, any additions or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor, Jim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Alex.
Not present,
Tom.
abstain.
Pardon?
Yes.
Alex is abstaining.
Yeah, not present. Yep.
Okay, and I'll vote yes as well. Thank you. What's next? I've got the original version of the agenda, not your second one. So is the brickyard?
You have the version that I sent you, and then there's like the one that I had to publicly post that it was too late to revise. So it would be Brickyard Water Chestnut, because for some reason my brain put Fowler Road in commission discussion instead of COCs.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you've got a letter from the Brickyard Removal Group.
Yep,
of-
just
of
stating that their polling is starting again. I believe Tom requested for this to be on the agenda. So their poll dates are June 4th, June 26th, and July 2nd, July 19th through 24th, and August 16th through 20th. Tom, how many years have they been doing this now?
I believe this is their 5th year.
Fifth
The
year?
good news was that it's
Yeah.
it's meeting the expectations. They got less plants this year than they did even in previous years. So what they're doing is having a positive impact.
All right, thank you. Okay, item D, Petoniak Fields.
Again, something Tom requested to be on the agenda that I reached out to Law about is how to manage Petoniak Fields because it's city owned, but Mass Audubon overlooks it. If we want to manage it, it's something that the commission as a whole wants to do. We can explore options, but Shanna is unsure of how to do so. And using
My
funding.
dream here was that my field of dreams was that we could make this into kind of a meadowland that would be friendly to ground birds. But I fear I've run out of time. I've run into some obstacles in that I understand that the budget, even though we've got $2,000 set aside, I understand the budgets have been frozen. I'm going to throw my towel in on this one. Maybe try to attack it in the future, but the bottom line is we don't have any money to do anything.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. The budget's been frozen since before I got here. It is concerning the funding would be our purchase of services account, which Meredith had created in the 2022 fiscal year, but I don't know if the commission was aware that it was created to use or what its purpose was, because not a dime of that got touched. So they cut that budget and now it's down to $1,000. Speaking of which, our budget did get approved. It was cut by like $4,000. But we'll work with it.
Was cut 4,000, what you
It
said?
was cut. They
Yeah.
lowered the pay for they took away our $1,000 for the purchase of services. They lowered the payment for the conservation clerk.
They lowered it?
Yeah. Don't get me started on that one. I'm not happy.
Oh my.
It went from like 25,000 to 24,000. I have it. Hold on.
Oh.
It's here.
You remember Petoniak, right? That's where all that bittersweet was growing up. And Lauren, you
Where's that
remember.
Petoniak property, Tom? Where is that?
I'm sorry?
Where is
Northwest
that
Road near
property,
the
Tom?
camp,
By the YMCA camp, yeah.
Yeah, Shepherd.
Oh, okay.
across the street, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so
Thank you.
hourly employees, the current budget for that was 25,000 a year and it dropped to 21,000. And then I think that was actually just the major decrease. And then the purchase of services, I believe that $1,000 that was cut from that was just distributed to other accounts.
All right.
And
thank you.
where are we with the replacement? Have we any
Nowhere.
Nowhere. No applications?
Nope.
No responses at all. Isn't that crazy?
I honestly, City Hall in total is kind of a skeleton right now as far as missing people in certain roles. For instance, we need a city clerk because Karen Binion's retiring. There's no GIS person. There's another, we need people, but that's everywhere. Everywhere is struggling to hire right now. But especially with the city clerk position, it doesn't pay a lot and it's only 19 hours a week. But the type of work doesn't constitute more than 19 hours a week. So I have a plan to talk to personnel about it.
All right, great, thank you. All right, item E, tree policy. Can this wait till next time?
Yeah,
Absolutely. So I meant this to be a boilerplate for you guys to look at. I really think that I kind of captured what you're feeling, but as far as the details, please rip it apart, put your 2 cents in. I'm not married to any of it, but I think I laid out a good argument for what you want. So look at it. Give me some back.
I'm just letting you know I already ripped it apart.
I thought the Habitat Replacement Fund that I read in one of the other towns policy was kind of an interesting idea. Instead of, in those situations where you may not have room to put 5 trees,
right,
the landowner could contribute to this fund. Maybe in the future we would have funds to do a Petoniak project. So but I'll send you my thoughts, Karen.
As mitigation, I think that's an option, and I've approached you guys in the past. You haven't been willing to do things like that, so I'm encouraged. I like that idea, so. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's finish before 10. Okay.
Continued until next time.
Do you want to, all right, I understand. I basically like the frame that Karen did. It's pretty good. Going through some other options, there was a few other things I'd want to add, such as some justification for some of what you did, just so it's from the homeowner's perspective as they read it.
Right.
Or the applicant, whoever it is, we provided some reasons that go a little bit deeper. But thank you. We have great frame, good stuff, good meat and
Does it
potatoes.
capture what the commission wanted as far as enforcement versus application to RDAs and NOIs?
Yeah.
All right, so submit your recommendations, your comments to Karen.
Thank you.
Anna,
Before the next meeting.
Really nice job with the webpage. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to visit the updates, but it looks way more professional.
I linked the applications for permits to our permit
Yeah.
page.
Great, thank you.
Nice.
That's a good help. Thank
So
you.
people can stop asking me where they gotta go.
Awesome.
By the way, who's slacking off and didn't give you pictures?
Tom Sharp and good old Bob Florick.
It's coming.
But Bob doesn't check his email, so.
Do you just want like a headshot? Anna, what do you want?
Yeah, a nice headshot. I got a nice photo from Alex today. I got a nice
Today.
from Lauren. Jim's
Is that why Alex got the
looking.
haircut?
Yeah, that's why Alex got off clean.
Yep.
Jim's
Slid in.
looking mighty fresh in his.
Mighty fresh.
I just want to see, as long as Bob's got that clock in the picture, I'm happy.
You gotta have the Bob clock.
Right. Bob's
All right,
clock
let's
says
get
10
outta here.
o'clock. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Jim?
Yeah.
Bob?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yep.
Alex?
Yes.
Tom? I'll vote yes as well. So,
Yes.
all right, let's not be this long next time, please.